The story starts with our main man Kai checking out this girl all chained up, and he wonders if she is a demon or an angel. This girl straight up asks him for help, but Kai can't even believe she's looking to a human for help. Humans and other races have been going at it like a hardcore war. But this girl, she ain't got a clue about that, and Kay's getting mad and frustrated because it's like nobody remembers what the real world's about. So we flash back and peep Kai doing his usual thing, keeping an eye on a graveyard. His homies want him to hurry up, but Kai takes this shit real serious. In this world, there's 5 races. The demons with their crazy magic powers, the celestials who are demi-humans such as angels and elves, the spirits who are creatures that possess special kinds of bodies such as ghosts. There are also the mythical beasts that are huge-ass monsters like dragons. And then, of course, you got the humans. These 5 races have been at war, and it's hella important to make sure we don't end up in another great war. Kai's part of the Urza Federation, and they got the job of watching over the graveyard where the demons had been sealed. Kai keeps an eye on that graveyard for 300 seconds like always, and he figures out ain't nothing funky going on. The demons are still sealed up tight, no doubt. Kai's co-worker Aslan can't get why Kai's taking his job so damn seriously, but Saki points out that it's good for them because they can take it easy. Ain't been no demon breaking free from that seal in a whole century, but Kai reminds his crew that it's still their job. There's 4 graveyards around the world, and Kai points out the folks in charge, they are taking their jobs just as serious. And that's because if a demon was to bust out, it would be straight up chaos. Kai's peeps wish he'd take it easy because it's been a while since a demon broke free, but Kai ain't letting his guard down. He declares that watching over that graveyard is his duty. Sometime later, we see Kai training hard, but they warned his ass, being a low-ranked soldier and messing with a mythical beast for training, that's some next-level danger. But Kai doesn't give a damn, he fights it anyway. Turns out his attacks don't do jack shit against that beast. Sei gets worried, so she shut off a hologram, and she's wishing Kai wouldn't push himself so damn far. But Kai thinks training would be pointless if he ain't risking it all. Saki actually admires Kai's determination. She thinks if he was around during the Great War, his name would be straight up legendary like that prophet named Sid. But Kai can't see himself winning against those 4 heroes like Sid did. Seki breaks down each hero from the 4 races, and she can't even imagine what they would have done if they were still kicking it. Luckily, Prophet Sid was able to take them down using the shining sword given by some god named Solaka. There's mad proof that the 4 heroes existed, but there ain't no evidence of this Prophet Sid. There are no pictures or videos or nothing. Saki switches the topic because their friend Jean's getting promoted, and she wants to throw down a celebration. Jean's getting transferred to headquarters at just 17, making her the youngest person ever chosen. She's a freaking elite among elites, so they gotta hook her up with more than just a bouquet like Aslan suggested. Right then, Kai gets a message from Jean and Aslan reads out loud. Jean wants to meet up with Kai, but she wants them to keep it on the low from Saki and Aslan. Kai tries to play it off, saying the message ain't really from Jean, but it's too late, and Aslan's wondering if Kai got some secret thing going on with Jean. They try to dig for more info, but Kai just decided to go for a run. Next morning, Kai meets up with Jean, and he's glad she actually showed up on time because she is usually late as hell. She wonders why Kai is all dressed up when he is off duty, so he explains he just came from his morning self-training, something he does every damn day. Jean wants him to roll with her while she goes gift shopping, and she says she's looking for presents for Saki and Aslan. She knows they're planning to get her something, so she want to give them something back. Jean says she probably won't see them again, but Kai assures her she's gonna be back as a cadet after her transfer in like 2 years. Jean predicting that by then, Saki and Aslan gonna be done with their military service and living civilian life. Only she and Kai gonna still be in the military grind. Kai's totally on board with her, but he can tell she's upset. He knows what's wrong and reassures her not to stress, because he's damn sure she's gonna outshine her dad, the big boss at Urza headquarters. They keep having a blast, but Kai ain't paying much mind to Jean's shopping because he's hunting for something for himself. At the end, Jean gives mad props to Kai for helping her score some sick gifts. Then they start chatting about how Jean's dad took Kai to check out the graveyard back when he was just a 10-year-old. Kai wandered into that graveyard, and when he came back, he was telling everyone about laying eyes on Sid's sword. Kai's got a vivid memory of what it was like in that graveyard and how he almost got his hands on the shining sword. That day, Kai started preaching about how crucial it is to keep the demons locked tight in the graveyard. Jean wonders where they're gonna be in the future, but Kai points out that she will simply be back in 2 years. But that ain't what she's getting at because she's talking about what comes after. Jean wants them to make a promise for the future, but Kai starts freaking out because some weird shit starts going down. Jean is clueless about why he's acting all strange, and now Kai's wondering if he's the only one seeing this crazy stuff. Jean keeps chatting like nothing weird's happening, but Kai's straight up horrified as she gets sucked into a black hole. Then out of nowhere, a mysterious voice announces that the world's reincarnating and it's time to overhaul the whole damn thing. Few moments later, Kai snaps back but finds himself in a dark and messed up world. Then shit gets real when a gigantic and terrifying demon pops up right in front of him. This beast unleashes some insane magic attack on Kai, and he barely survives by using his sword case as his shield. Kai can't even wrap his head around the fact that a alleged demon standing there, getting ready to unleash another hellish attack. Kai rushes to his sword and swiftly loads it up with bullets. His weapon's versatile because he can shoot bullets and cancel out that dragon's magic. The dragon can actually talk, and it's blown away by Kai's cancellation skills. Kai breaks it down, saying he used some modified elven bullets crafted with elven magic. But the demon just keeps coming at him, and Kai ain't phased one bit. He closes the gap between him and the demon, showing off his insane fearlessness. Kai's sword can't pierce the demon's skin, but he takes advantage and lets off a shot up close and personal. Exhausted as hell, Kai explains that the bullet he just used is a modified Drake bullet that mimics the breath of mythical beasts. It's his first time using it, but Kai's stoked to see that he's moving just like he does in training. He's feeling hella confident now that he knows he can actually take on real-life demons. Just then, another demon shows up and starts talking smack about how it's laughable for a human to think it can take down demons. Kai's impressed by how well this demon speaks English, but the demon explains that the most effective way to control a slave is by using its own language. Kai's clueless about why the demon's calling him a slave, but there's no time for thinking. The demon says Kai smells dangerous, so it's ready to wipe him out. Just when things look grim, someone saves Kai with a flashbang and they bounce. This girl tells her crew that they've got the Wanderer secured and she needs to know where Kai's from. Kai's shocked to see that this girl is Saki, but she ain't got a clue who he is or how he knows her name. Kai reminds her they're friends, but she swears she's never seen him before and neither has Aislinn. Kai can't wrap his head around why they don't remember him, so he reminds them they're from the same agency. They look at him like he's speaking gibberish and explain they're just soldiers in the resistance. Now Kai's the one feeling lost and confused, so Saki starts spilling that they're with the human rebel army. This just causes more confusion to him, so he asks them to tell him everything about this world. Aislinn and Saki think he's all messed up from facing a demon, assuming he's forgotten stuff. They try to help him remember, explaining there was a huge war between the 5 races and humanity ended up on the losing side. Kai is shocked, of course, because in his world humanity actually won. Aislinn goes on to say that they lost a war over 30 years ago and the other 4 races took over cities worldwide. And damn, humans are struggling to survive, running and hiding like there's no tomorrow. The world's now ruled by the other races, and they stay fighting each other for turf. Aislinn and Saki introduce Kai to Neo-Vashel, the human city. A group of humans snagged an underground spot that was still intact and flipped it into an underground city. Their resistance holds it down, protecting the folks living there by going toe-to-toe with the other races. Kai wonders how the hell humans lost the Great War, but Aislinn and Saki don't even gotta say it, it's pretty damn obvious. They point out how freaking powerful that demon he just saw was. They explain that they roll up on humans in groups, leaving them no chance to beat them. And on top of that, each race got a boss they call a hero, and these heroes are some seriously strong individuals. All this sounds hella familiar to Kai, so he starts wondering what the hell happened to Prophet Sid, humanity's damn savior. Kai can't believe his ears when they say they never heard of Prophet Sid. He tells them that Sid's supposed to be the hero who whooped the other race's asses. Aislinn hits the nail on the head, saying if they had someone like that, they wouldn't be living underground like they are. Just then, the main crew rolls up, and Aislinn explains there are multiple human cities around the globe with resistance groups in each one, all overseen by the main core. The resistance commander is someone who saved countless lives, and Kai's jaw drops when he sees his Jean. Especially because everyone thinks she is a dude. Aislinn and Saki introduce Kai to the commander, explaining his memory is a bit foggy. Jean starts to leave, but Kai can't handle it all and stops her. He tries to jog Jean's memory about who he is and how they were just shopping a few minutes ago. Jean's clueless and assumes he's got her mixed up with someone else. Kai can't even comprehend that she straight up doesn't know who he is, so he straight up asks her why she's fronting like a dude. Jean's hella shocked to hear that, and Kai reminds her about how she wanted to outshine her dad as his daughter. Some soldier named Fallon steps in and Jean decides to dip. Kai's new crew's worried about him, telling him to get some rest. That night, Kai starts digging through some historical docs and realizes that the only records missing are the ones about himself and Prophet Sid. That's when it hits him. If Sid never existed and humans lost the Great War, then why the hell do the graveyards where the 4 races are sealed still exist? The next day, Kai asks Saki about the graveyards, but she's got no clue what he's talking about. Aislinn lets Kai borrow the car, which pisses off Saki, but Aislinn says it was just instinct. Kai pulls up to the graveyard and thinks about how it's his first solo trip. He's tripping out when he sees that the blockade stone is gone, so he enters. The darkness fades into light and Kai's jaws drop when he lays eyes on the shining sword just chilling there. This straight up proves to him that the legends about Sid gotta be true. Kai grabs the sword from the mantle and a loud voice hands him the world coordinate key, calling it the code holder. Suddenly, a massive shining door opens in front of him and Kai hears a girl screaming for help. Kai's mind is blown because he ain't in the graveyard no more, so he climbs up some big-ass stairs. At the top, he sees a whole bunch of chains keeping just one girl locked up. Her wings look like a mix of demons and angels, and the hot girl begs Kai to set her free from those damn chains. Kai is all confused trying to figure out what the hell race this girl is, but then she tells him her name's Rin, begging for him to save her one more time before passing the hell out. Kai is standing there thinking if he should help her or not. See, Kai hates demons, and this girl doesn't look like any demon. So even though he ain't too sure, he decides to set her free against his better judgment. He grabs his sword and tries to slice the damn chains, but those chains are tough as nails. Ain't no damage happening at all. Next, he busts out his bullets, but even that ain't enough to break the chains. My man's losing hope because he ain't got no other weapons on him. But then it hits him. He's still got that special sword. He tries to remember what the hell it's called and shouts out code holder. And his gun sword starts transforming into this golden code holder thing. Kai can't even believe he's holding the same sword Sid used to save humanity in his timeline. He raises that badass sword and takes another swing at the chains. For a hot second, it looks like he just wrecked the whole damn dimension. But shit goes back to normal and the chains are sliced clean in half. The girl's freed and starts falling to the ground, so Kai catches her. As soon as she opens her eyes, she freaks out and flies away from him, screaming for some chick named Vanessa to come out. She says that she wants a rematch with Vanessa and ain't fair of her to send some weak-ass demon to try and kill her. But before Kai can explain that he ain't a demon, Rin's already launching attacks at him because she hates demons. He manages to dodge the first attack like a boss, but he can't escape the second energy blast she throws his way, and now he's starting to regret helping her. But just as that blast's about to hit him square in the face, he remembers something the system mentioned about the code holder being able to break fate itself. So he grabs that code holder and slashes that magic ball in half. The magic disappears, leaving Kai and Rin both shocked because no way in hell could a measly demon block her attack. Finally, Kai spills everything and tells her straight up that he ain't a demon. He asked her where the hell she even got that idea because he has no wings or tail, so clearly he's just a damn human. Rin realizes she messed up big time, so she apologizes for mistaking Kai for a demon and attacking him suddenly. But she has this deep hatred for demons, so whenever she sees one, it's all about that violence, no questions asked. Luckily, Kai hates demons too, so at least he knows for sure she ain't one. But he is still clueless about her race, so he asks her. But she pleads with him not to ask her about that. Kai agrees to drop the race talk for now, but he has other questions like where the hell they at. But Rin had no clue either. All she remembers is fighting Vanessa, and then she's suddenly stuck in this place. Kai recognizes the name and asks if it's the same Vanessa who's a hero to demons, and Rin confirms it. That surprises Kai because Rin picking fights with heroes and all. So he asks if she's really that strong, and Rin proudly claims she could wipe out a whole damn army of demons if she felt like it. But she also admits that Kai's just as impressive because he managed to block her attacks. She is curious about how he pulled it off, so Kai is about to spill about his sword. But just then he peeps a portal behind Rin, and out comes this ugly-ass monster. The monster starts talking about some fate singularity entity waking up and how it's a major threat to the new world, so it's gonna start doing its thing, get rid of it. The monster tries to take out Rin, but Kai swoops in and saves her at the last second. This monster has serious power, so Kai says he and Rin have no choice but to run, and she agrees. So he grabs her hand and they both dip. Unfortunately, they don't even know where the exit is, and that monster still got access to the portal. It reaches its nasty-ass tendril into the portal and snatches Rin. Then it declares it captured the singularity and starts this termination protocol, forming orbs to erase Rin from existence. Kai can't handle seeing that, so he decides to stop standing around and take action to save her. He busts out the golden sword again and slices that monster's tendril in half, wreaking havoc on the dimension in the process. The monster spots Kai and peeps that he's holding that forbidden sword, but it can't wrap its head around why the hell the sword's here or how a human like Kai got his hands on it. Now that Rin's free, Kai ain't sticking around to find out what the monster's planning. He grabs Rin and jumps through that hole in the dimension, taking them back to the graveyard on Earth. Kai's a bit confused, but he's relieved they made it out in one piece. Rin's feeling hella relieved too because she was scared shitless she might kick the bucket. This is the first time anyone's ever given a damn about helping her out. Her whole life, all the other races have been telling her she ain't one of them. And the demons have been the cruelest, always calling her an abomination. That's why Rin got into that massive fight with Vanessa. Kai tries to comfort her, saying he knows how she feels because all his friends don't remember him no more. He feels like he's all alone in this messed up world. The history he remembers is one where humans won the Great War of the 5 races. But in this world, demons seem to be taking over the human cities, Rin's a little confused because she doesn't remember demons ever getting the upper hand against humans. In fact, around the time she fought with Vanessa, humans were starting to kick demon ass, and the demons were whining about it being because of the human hero. Kai gets all hyped and asks if Rin remembers Sid, but she never got to meet him, so she can't say for sure. Kai realizes he might have overreacted, so he apologizes to Rin, but at least they know they come from the same past, so they gotta be connected somehow. Rin gets close to Kai and says he's the first person to ever stand by her side, and that shit makes her hella happy. A little while later, they bounce from the graveyard. Rin asks Kai what he plans on doing now, but before he can answer, Rin collapses from exhaustion. Kai's worried and figures it's because of that attack she took earlier, so he helps her up and says he's gonna head back to the city, and since she has no place to go, he invites her to stay with him while they're there. Rin ain't too sure about rolling to a human city because she doesn't trust people like that, so Kai asks her why and she says she can't trust anyone except him because he saved her ass. He tells her she should trust that he'll keep her safe and asks her again to come with him. He lets her know she can bounce if she ain't feeling it. No hard feelings. So in the end, Rin agrees to go with him. Back in Kay's house, Dude's lying on his bed while Rin's taking a shower, and he dead-ass exhausted from the drive back home. Rin had never been in a car before, so she was freaking out the whole time and nearly making him crash left and right. Lucky for her, she hit her wings, so once they got here, nobody could tell she ain't human. But her weird behavior still got folks on edge. She even tried to throw down with some magic at one point and Kai had to hold her back. But he guessed why she is so cautious because she's around a bunch of strangers. Then Kay's attention turns to his sword. He hadn't even noticed when it went back to normal, so he grabs it and is about to say code holder to see if he transforms again. But before he can do that, Rin comes running out of the shower, begging for help because she can't figure out how to turn off the damn water. Kai tells her he'll help, but for now he can't look because she ain't wearing any clothes. Once the shower's off, Rin gets dressed and starts talking about how humans got all the good shit. Even with their messed up society, they still got that warm-ass water to shower with, while Rin had to bathe in a damn waterfall. And also humans got the soft beds too, but on the surface, everything's destroyed. So she finally gets that Kai wasn't messing around when he said demons took over the city. Kai had his doubts at first, but meeting Rin confirmed he ain't losing his mind. Now he knows for sure they are in a world where the race war results got messed up. The real history is the one where Sid became the human hero. But in this reality, Dude never existed for some reason. Rin suggests they gotta find a way to escape this reality and get back to the old one. That's the solution to their problem, but Kai doesn't know if there's actually a way to make that happen. They hit the bed after that, but late in the night, Rin jolts awake and warns Kai about some strong-ass magic vibes, meaning the demons are launching an attack. Outside, the demons just busted through the city ceiling and going on a rampage. Kai already knew humanity was screwed in this messed up reality, but he didn't realize how damn helpless humans were against demons. Ain't no hero around to save them either, so Kai decides he gotta step up and take Sad's place for the sake of humanity. The defense units start blasting bullets at the demons, but they know the little bullets ain't gonna do shit. So Saki darts off to grab the machine gun, but right before she gets to it, a demon rolls up behind her about to cast a spell. But at the last damn second, Kai jumps in and saves her, knocking that demon to the floor. He tells Saki to use water against the demons because if they soak that shit up, they'll get too heavy to fly. And once they're grounded, she should toss some grenades their way. Just then, Kai notices a demon turning Aslan into a freaking stone. So he fires an anti-magic bullet to break the spell and save his life. The demon then sets its sights on Kai, trying to pin him down, while another demon sneaks up from behind to attack. But Kai slips past that sucker and shoves the first demon away, while Rin takes care of the second one with a blast. Afterward, Kai thanks Rin for the backup and gives her props for her strength. But even with her badass power, ain't sure if they can save the city on their own. Aslan and Seki come running up to Kai, asking him how the hell he's destroying magic with bullets and knocking demons around with his fists. Kai breaks it down for them, explaining that he comes from a world where humanity won the race war. His fighting style and special bullets all come from that world. But Saki and Aslan still ain't buying Kai's talk about alternate timelines. But before they can ask more questions, Aslan gets a message saying 2 demon scouts got away. And if the scouts report back to their leader about this underground city's location, a whole damn army of demons gonna swarm in and wipe out every last human. Aslan says he gotta report this to the rebel army headquarters. And Saki asks Kai to come with them because his strength makes him a valuable asset. So Jean gonna welcome him for sure. Kai agrees to join them, and they all head to the headquarters in the old royal capital. That place got wrecked years ago, but that's exactly why they chose to set up their headquarters there. Demons ain't gonna think of searching for them in a destroyed place. The one who came up with the idea was Jean's dad, but he retired as the head of the rebel army 2 years ago because of an injury, so Jean took his spot. They roll up at headquarters and both Kai and Rin get brought in to meet Jean. She already got the reports from Aslan, so she asks Kai to spill about this alternate timeline he mentioned earlier. Kai spills on all he knows, but the other big shots in the room call him a liar for dropping such a ballsy claim. But Kai brings up how he and Jean were tight as kids in the previous timeline. He mentions Og and Jur, the nicknames Jean always wanted to be like. The names catch Jean's ear, but she keeps quiet for now and decides to wrap up the meeting. Later that night, Jean wants to link up with Kai. Seems like she's starting to be a bit more open to the idea that Kai might have been spitting the truth. Not many folks in this world know she's a woman, and Og and Jur were her dad and grandpa's nicknames. But that doesn't mean she believes every damn word he said. Still, she thinks his fighting skills and knowledge can be trusted. She lays out a plan to link up with other human cities and push back the demons planning to invade Neo Vashel. But Rin ain't feeling it. She thinks that plan's just gonna attract more and more demons as time goes on. Plus, if some high-ranking demon shows up, the whole thing's gonna go to shit. Gina knows it's a risky move, but she can't think of nothing better to protect the homes of the survivors. That's when Kai drops a bomb. He says they only gotta take down one demon to solve this mess, and that's Vanessa, the hero of the demons. Jean thinks it's straight up crazy to even consider going up against a powerful demon like Vanessa, but Kai's confident that the code holder can handle her. He says he and Rin are gonna be the ones to go head-to-head with Vanessa. Demons are more focused on scraping with other races, so most of them won't be riding with Vanessa. All Kai needs is for Jean and her crew to hold off the rest of the demons while he goes to engage Vanessa. After Jean agrees, they waste no time and start prepping to take back the Urza Federation. The scene jumps to Kai and the crew gearing up for the big battle. Rin is all fired up, ranting about how much she hates different kinds of beings. She hates demons because they're shady and deceitful, spirits because they're creepy as hell, mythical beasts because they're straight up savage, celestials because they're stubborn as a mule, and humans because they're weak and fragile. But the kicker is she hates herself the most because she's got a bit of all those traits in her. Despite all that, Kay's the only one who wasn't afraid of her, who saw her for who she really is and accepted her. She's really hoping he doesn't die on her. Then the scene shifts to the Urza Federation's army marching towards the government palace. Saki is in disbelief that their small squad is the one taking on Vanessa. She thinks the plan's got a shot because Jean is leading them, but she's still worried about going up against Vanessa. She questions what they're supposed to do with just the 4 of them, and Kai says a small squad is the key to reaching Vanessa quickly and unnoticed. Saki gets it, but she still isn't thrilled about being part of this risky plan. Kai then turns to Saki and Aslan, telling them they're the only ones he can trust to have his back. Saki's still pretty scared, but Rin steps in and gives her a reassuring pat on the head, which calms her down a bit. Rin tells Saki not to worry, reminding her that she's strong and won't lose to anyone except maybe Vanessa. Saki nervously asks what happens if they do run into Vanessa, and Rin confidently says she'll handle Vanessa herself, even if it comes to blow herself up with her. Saki begs Rin not to go through with such a dangerous plan, and Aslan chimes in, sharing his own worries. He points out that they have no idea what condition the government palace is in and fears the demons might spot them if they move in a big group. Kai reassures him, explaining that demons are sensitive to magic and won't notice them because humans don't have magic. Aslan feels a bit more at ease and wonders if Kai picked up this knowledge from his world. Kai observes that Aslan seems pretty calm, but Aslan admits his hands are actually shaking. He adds that if they manage to defeat the demons, they'll be famous worldwide and might even get some rewards. Kai tells him that he's more reliable than the Aslan he used to know and says he's counting on him. They then arrive at their destination, ready for whatever comes next. Jean gives a speech to boost the morale of the soldiers. She knows some of them might be worried because of the short preparation time, but she reminds them how long they've been fighting. She tells them all that fighting was just the build-up for today. They'd only been nurturing their spirit and will to fight for so long, but now it's time to strike back and make their voices heard. They head into the capital through an underground passage, and Kai is shocked to see the government palace in ruins. The demons patrolling the palace spot them and attack with ice magic. Kai dispels the magic with his bullet and takes out the demon with his sword. More demons show up, and Rin uses her magic to wipe them all out at once, but Kai pretends one of his bullets did it. Aslan and Saki are surprised to see he has a bullet this powerful, and Kai tells them it's his strongest bullet. He then asks Rin if she can sense Vanessa, and she finds out Vanessa is on the top floor. Kai tells Jean he'll go look for the demon hero, starting with the top floor on the north side. Jean says she'll go with him part of the way, but Fallon informs them the stairs on the north side are collapsed, so they should use the ones on the south side. Jean understands and orders a group of soldiers to stay put and not let any demons into the government palace. She orders another group to rescue the prisoners from underground, and her group takes the emergency stairs on the south side. On the way, Fallon asks Kai about the lightning attack from earlier, realizing he wasn't responsible since she never saw him pull the trigger. And she figures out it was Rin's doing. Jean then asks Kai if he's still up for fighting Vanessa alone, and he says he is. She then informs him the demon should be gathering soon. And Rin then notices an imp summoning a large demon on their way up. They're too late to stop it, and it summons the demon. The demon grabs one of the soldiers, but Fallon saves him, telling the others to go on ahead while she deals with this small fry. They leave her behind to handle a demon, and outside, the group of soldiers are also fighting some demons, and the second group saves the captives, and Jean and the others head into a room. Jean gets hit by a powerful lightning attack as soon as she walks in, but she's totally fine. Rin notices she's wearing an elven garment, and Jean explains it's a magic item called the Sacred Light Garment, which they got from an elven village. Jean says this is the best thing for magic resistance. She tells them her forces will handle the demon and tells them to move on. Kai and his group move forward and put on some armbands. Saki is surprised to learn these armbands will keep them hidden from demons and wonders how they work. Rin tries to explain its barrier magic, but Kai warns her not to. Rin says a human made it by copying angelic barrier magic. She explains it bends light to hide them, and they continue on. A demon approaches them and Saki tries to attack, but Rin stops her. The demon passes right by them without noticing. They're all relieved the barrier is working, and soon they reach the breaker room. They tell Saki and Aslan to stay there and cut the power if it looks like they're losing to Vanessa. Kai explains they'll use the dark to escape, and he'll send a signal when it's time. Kai and Rin move on, but then they hear an alarm. Kai worries they've been found, but Rin says her barrier should still be up, and Kai realizes it might be the building's infrared sensors. They keep going and spot some demons waiting for them. One demon says that human machines come in handy sometimes, revealing that the demons use the surveillance system to track them. Kai asks if this demon maintains the system, and he learns that Vanessa suggested using it. Since the slaves handle maintenance, it's hassle-free, and the demon hero is pleased with the invasion. The demon is curious why they'd risk a suicidal mission. Kai asks him to lead them to Vanessa, but the demon says he'll use them for his own amusement. He and the other demons then attack Kai, but Rin quickly flies him out of the way and takes him to the stairs leading to the next floor. She blocks off the demons and tells Kai to go ahead while she handles them. Kai isn't happy with this plan but has no choice, so he moves forward. The demons then catch the scent of every race coming from Rin, and they're confused about what she is. Rin says she doesn't know and admits she hates demons. Then she gets ready to attack them with her magic. Kai then finds Vanessa's room and is surprised to see that the demon hero is a hot succubus. We then cut to Jean battling the demon from earlier, with the others backing her up with gunfire. Jean tries to strike the demon, but he grabs her sword and attacks her with fire magic. Her elven garment protects her, and the demon realizes this. Jean's sword then transforms into a bow, and she uses it to take down the demon. Before dying, the demon notices that Jean is using angelic and elven magic items and warns her that these items will drain her life force because humans can't use magic properly. Jean finishes him off and says she chose death willingly. She explains that's the kind of resolve a human needs to defeat demons. Another demon drops down from above to attack Jean, but Fallon swoops in to save her. The demon recognizes Fallon and wonders if she's the dragoner who wields a drake named Fong. Fallon denies it, and Jean hopes things are going well on the top floor. The scene shifts to the top floor, where Vanessa asks Kai if he's not surprised that the strongest demon is a succubus. Kai says he's not surprised at all, and Vanessa finds him interesting. She mentions she wanted to charm him into becoming her slave, but didn't expect his reaction. She asks if he's the commander who uses the elven garment, but Kai says he's not, he's just an outsider. Kai says he's from a world where she was defeated, but Vanessa tells him no such world exists. Kai doesn't care if she believes him or not. He explains he ended up in this world against his will, and that, according to the history he remembers, the Great War of the 5 races ended years ago. Vanessa asks Kai which race managed to defeat her, and she's amused to find out it was the humans. She wants to know which human did it, and Kai tells her it was Sid. The name triggers some memories for Vanessa, but she quickly pushes them aside and tries to use her magic on Kai, but Kai cancels her spell. Kai then attacks only to discover it's an illusion. Vanessa strikes from behind, but he dodges. She notices his weapon is unusual and realizes it must be from his old world. Kai asks if she believes him now, but she dismisses him as arrogant and hits him with a powerful flame spell. He deflects the attack, surprising her. Vanessa then unleashes a spell meant to destroy any race. The spell shakes the entire building, but Kai uses Code Holder to protect himself, leaving Vanessa amazed that he's still standing. Vanessa asks about the sword Kai is holding, but he doesn't answer. Suddenly, Rin hits Vanessa with a lightning spell. Kai sees that Rin is badly hurt from her earlier fight with the demons. She explains she got scared when the building shook, thinking Kai might be dead, so she came to check on him. Rin challenges Vanessa to fight her, but before she can, the monster from earlier appears through a portal and binds Vanessa. The monster notices strange changes in Vanessa and realizes she's been affected by the forbidden word. It tries to exorcise Vanessa from this world, but she manages to break free and recognizes the monster as one of Alfreya's servants. Vanessa retaliates with a powerful fire spell, severely injuring the monster, but it's still alive. The monster escapes through the portal to recover, and Kai is stunned by Vanessa's strength. He can't believe Rin was fighting someone this formidable. Rin admits that the Vanessa from her world wasn't this terrifying, and she's genuinely frightened by her power. Vanessa then tries to heal her injury by focusing her power, but it doesn't work. So she decides to prioritize dealing with Kai and Rin instead. Rin knows they don't stand a chance against her, so before Vanessa can attack, she flies in and tackles her, telling Kai to get out of there because she won't be able to hold Vanessa off for long. Rin throws up a shadow prison barrier around herself and Vanessa to buy some time. Vanessa sees its spirit magic, but it's way too weak to stop her. Rin gets thrown back when Vanessa breaks through the barrier, but before Vanessa can finish her off, Kai charges in to attack. Since Vanessa is focused on him now, she redirects her blast at him instead. Kai manages to block most of it, but he still looks pretty messed up. Rin can't believe she let Kai get killed. Vanessa taunts her, asking if she plans to avenge Kai's death or if she'll just run away. Rin is fed up with Vanessa's trash talk, so she's going all out to make sure Vanessa pays for this. Rin unleashes her full power, and her body starts showing traits from all 5 races. Vanessa thinks it's amusing, but Rin isn't messing around anymore. She lands a solid punch, wiping the smile off Vanessa's face. In this new form, Rin can actually go toe-to-toe with Vanessa and push her around. But it turns out Vanessa was just playing with her. Vanessa finds Rin's chaotic form fascinating, but she questions why Rin didn't use it sooner. If she had, she might have bought enough time for Kai to get away. Vanessa wonders if Rin was scared to show her true nature or if she was worried about being called a monster. Rin starts crying, but Vanessa reminds her that she only has herself to blame. Vanessa is the demon hero and will do whatever she wants, but Rin had the chance to save Kai and doesn't go all out because she was afraid. It's her hesitation that got Kai killed. As much as Rin hates to admit, Vanessa's right. It's her fault Kai is dead. But that doesn't matter now. Nothing she does can bring Kai back, so she just wants to die and take Vanessa down with her. She grabs Vanessa's hand to slap a curse on her. Before Vanessa even realizes what's happening, blood droplets start oozing from her skin. These drops are Vanessa's life force, and there's no way to defend against them. They'll keep falling until both Vanessa and Rin are dead. Normally this would be game over for Vanessa, but she's still got a card to play. Suddenly, Rin collapses and Vanessa explains that even though the curse can't be blocked, its power depends on the caster's magical strength. Rin usually would have had enough magic to make it work, but they're in Vanessa's base and she had set up some major countermeasures for attacks from other races. Behind Vanessa is a huge curse circle that messes with spirits, magical beasts, and celestials. Since Rin is all 3, the curse is hitting her 3 times as hard, so it's crazy that Rin lasted this long. She can't even get her revenge for Kai, so she just sits there and apologizes for not being useful. Vanessa is getting fed up with Rin's weak axe, so she gets ready to finish her off with one last blast. But before Rin gets killed, the blast is blocked by Kai, who's somehow still alive. He tells Rin there's no need to apologize and that she was actually really helpful because her fight with Vanessa gave him enough time to wake up. Rin can hardly believe Kai is still alive and Vanessa can't either, so she asks him how he survived because there is no human should still be standing after that. Kai remembers using the code holder to protect himself from the blast, which is the second time it saved his life in this fight. But he keeps that to himself and just gets ready to face Vanessa. Vanessa's pissed that Kai would dare challenge her, so she reminds him he's just some trash who survived by luck. Her last attack almost killed him, and the only reason she couldn't finish him off was because Rin was keeping her busy. Kai says he's fighting so hard because Rin risked her life for him, so he's going to do the same for her. Vanessa's got a look of intrigue and asks Kai if he's got some kind of plan to take her down because she's really curious to see what he's got. Humans always talk big about showing their potential, but she's never been impressed by any of them. The spirit hero, the celestial hero, and the beast hero have been a pain in her side, but at least she respects their power. When it comes to humans, though, she hasn't met one she can respect, unless Kai's about to claim he's strong enough to be humanity's hero. Kai tells her he's not aiming to be humanity's hero, but she asks to see what a human can do, so he's going to show her exactly how powerful a human can be. From here on out, he's facing Vanessa as a stand-in for all of humanity. Even though Vanessa can't imagine what he could possibly do to beat her, she decides to take him seriously. She uses her magic to summon a mini-meteor to smash Kai, but Kai slices it into pieces with the code holder. Vanessa's impressed he cut through her magic so easily, but she's far from done, so she starts casting a bunch of Hellflame spells. While she's at it, Kai calls Aislinn and tells him to cut the power, so all the lights in the place go out. Vanessa realizes she can't see anything even though she's got a literal flame on her shoulder, and since Kai doesn't have any magic, she can't sense him either. But even without magic, the sword is loaded with magical energy, so she targets the sword with her Hellflame attack. As the dust clears, she's shocked to find Rin holding the code holder while Kai is already behind her. All those years Kai spent training finally pay off. He locks Vanessa in a combo, and has Rin toss his sword over so he can finish her off. The last thing Vanessa says before getting sliced is, "I guess I lost. Good game, human." As Vanessa collapses to her knees, her body starts falling apart from all the damage. Rin and Kai notice something's up with her, and then Vanessa's memories come flooding back. She remembers everything about Sid and the whole world reincarnation deal. She can't believe she let herself fall for it after Sid warned her something like this could happen. After hearing that Vanessa knows about Sid, Kai starts grilling her to spill all the details. Vanessa tells him about this crazy thing called world reincarnation that Sid talked about. Apparently, someone messed with the timeline and changed history, so Kai's gotta find this person, who's probably one of the other 3 heroes. Sid saw this world reincarnation coming, which is why he gave Vanessa his sword to keep it safe from enemies. That sword's the key to fixing all the mess made to this world. Kai's curious why Vanessa and Sid would team up when they're supposed to be enemies. Vanessa explains that she did fight Sid once, but he earned her respect as a serious fighter, and they ended up working together. There's a lot about the old world Kai doesn't know, so Vanessa warns him to watch out for the Zero Code. It's some seriously tricky magic. On top of that, Vanessa tells Kai he did a damn good job against her, and she was really impressed. From his plan to use the darkness to his guts and combat skills, she now gets what he means by human spirit. Even though she's pissed about losing, she'd love to face him again. And if they meet up next time, she's planning to have a lot more fun with him, but as a succubus. Kai's kinda speechless after what Vanessa just said, but the fight's exhaustion hits him and he ends up dropping to his knees. Still, he's relieved he actually took down Vanessa. Word about Vanessa's defeat spreads fast, and soon all the human survivors are back at the Urza Federation, ready to start taking it back. Things are finally looking up for the humans, but while everyone's celebrating the win, Kai's stuck on what to do next. Rin notices he's off and asks if something's wrong. Kai mentions he thought something happened to them, which is why they're the only ones who remember the old world. But if Vanessa's right, then it's actually the other way around. The world got flipped upside down, and somehow they're the only ones who stayed the same. Rin's saying she wants things to go back to how they were because this new world freaks her out, and Kai's on the same page, but he's got no clue how they'll set everything straight. Just then, Jean rolls up to Kai and Rin to show her thanks. Even though the place is a wreck right now, the only reason humans managed to take back their city is because of what Kai and Rin did. That's why she wants to thank them on behalf of the rebel army. But she notices Kai and Rin don't seem too thrilled despite their win. Kai tells her he's actually relieved he won because he doubts he'd be able to take Vanessa down if they cross paths again. Now that Vanessa's out of the picture, humans can rebuild the city and maybe even make it better than it was before. But that's a job for someone else, not her. The folks who were around when the Federation first fell to the demons would be way better at leading the rebuilding efforts, so Jean is not stepping up for that. But if she's not going to help with the rebuild, Kai and Rin ask what her plan is. Jean explains there are 3 other federations that got taken over by the other races: the Iowa Federation, the Yulin Federation, and the Scholz Federation. Each one's under control of a different race, and each has a human rebel army fighting back. She plans to head out and kick off a big operation to unite the rebel fronts. The word about Vanessa's defeat is spread all over, and humans everywhere are more fired up than ever. That's why Jean's hoping Kai and Rin will come with her to help out the other rebel armies. If they team up, they might be able to pull off what the humans in Kai's old world did and kick out all the other races. Jean's gonna personally lead the soldiers and make sure Kai and Rin get all the support they need, so she's asking Kai to fight alongside them. Kai looks a bit shell-shocked for a second, so Jean makes sure to mention he'll be well compensated for all this hero stuff. But it's not like Kai's not down to help humanity win. He was just thinking about how grown-up this version of Jean is. In his old world, Jean was amazing but had this kid side too, like calling him up during his training, dragging him on shopping trips, and stressing over her future with friends. But it's hard to picture this Jean doing any of that. Kai agrees to team up with Jean to fight the other races and free humanity. He reaches out his hand for a handshake, and they seal the deal. They head down to the ground floor where Jean pumps up the soldiers, asking if they've all had a good rest. They're all buzzing with energy since this is the first time they've slept without freaking out about demon attacks. They're stoked about taking back Urza, and Jean fills them in on the plan to reclaim the other federations. Meanwhile, Kai tells Rin he's going to finish this 5 races war himself. If there's no Sid to save the day, then it's on him to step up and be humanity's hero. And while he's at it, he's going to track down the person behind the world reincarnation and set everything back to normal. Afterward, Rin finds herself dreaming about the time she was desperately fleeing from that monster we saw earlier, with Sid by her side, offering some cryptic advice. She wakes up and we see she's in a car, headed straight for the Iowa Federation. Aslan is floored that they're already on another mission when they've barely had time to catch their breath after defeating the demons. So Saki tells him they don't have much choice. Requests for help are pouring in from other countries, and Genie is their last hope, so she hopes the capital will be rebuilt by the time they return. Aslan can only hope the demons don't retake the city, but Kay's mind is elsewhere. He flashes back to when the battle ended, and as they were cleaning up, Rin caught the scent of demons in the air. They followed the trail, but found nothing at the spot where the smell was strongest. That's when Rin quickly realized it was a trap, but before they could escape, they were caught in a barrier with no way out. That's when Vanessa's sisters showed up, launching an attack. But the badass Kai cut through her assault with Code Holder. She then made another move, but Rin shut her down and Kai asked for straight up what she wanted. So she casually introduced herself as Hymeril, the succubus, and Kai immediately felt the heavy pressure she was giving off, just as intense as Vanessa's. She admitted she was shocked that her sister had been taken down by a mere human, saying it must have taken a string of miracles to pull it off. But if she'd been at the royal capital at the time, he wouldn't have stood a chance. Then when Kai asked if she was there to avenge her sister, Hymeril simply laughed. She admitted that she did love her sister, but now that Vanessa was out of the picture, she is now the new top dog. In fact, she was grateful to him. So she let him in on a little secret. The demons could easily retake the capital if they wanted, but they're letting the humans hold onto it for now. She suggested both sides should take a breather from the war, and Kai realized what she was hinting at. Pushing the fight any further would leave them open to attacks from the other races. Hymeril offered a deal. The humans could keep the royal capital, but in exchange, all other territories would belong to the demons. She asked if Kai agreed to the truce, and he assured her that he passed the message along to his commander. But Hymeril wasn't done. She subtly pushed Kai to go after the other three races, clearly hoping they'd all wipe each other out. She even teased that she'd reward him with a kiss if he succeeded. Kai is unimpressed and makes it clear he isn't interested, but she leaves him with a parting shot, saying she'd take what she wanted by force someday. As she departed, she warned him to watch out for Alfrea, who'd been acting strange lately, especially if they were planning to take on the Celestials next. Back in the present, Kai gathers the team, telling them that they need to leave the reconstruction efforts to others. Their mission now is to join forces with the Io Federation's rebel army and take down the Celestials. Sekai recalls that the Celestials are an alliance of elves, dwarves, fairies, and angels. Kai adds that these beings are even more devious and cunning than humans. They're masters at crafting powerful magical items for battle, and if demons are considered monsters, then Celestials are basically humans with a terrifying upgrade. Jean then announces over the comms that they're approaching the halfway point on the highway and the rest stop is just 2 kilometers away. It hasn't been maintained in years, but it should be good enough for a quick break. Suddenly, Rin spots something and urgently asks Aslan to open the top hatch. She peers out and spots a dragon soaring above. Aslan finds this strange considering they're supposed to be in demon territory, but Kai quickly alerts everyone. Jean orders the convoy to speed up and try to outrun the dragon, but it's no use. The beast is too fast. Then the soldiers take aim and fire on Jean's command, but the bullets barely scratch the dragon's scales, and the creature destroys 2 of their vehicles. Then Rin unleashes her lightning magic on the dragon, while Kai plays it off as one of his shots, and together they manage to drive the creature away. Jean then orders all vehicles to stop and tend to the soldiers who are attacked by the dragon. The scene shifts to the soldiers at camp where the injured are getting treated. Rin and Kai have a tent all to themselves, and Kai can't help but feel a bit guilty for taking up so much space. He suggests that Rin could sleep in the tent for female soldiers, but Rin isn't keen on the idea. Kai quickly realizes that she feels uneasy being surrounded by so many humans. Just then, Rin tells Kai that Jean is on her way, and sure enough, Jean and Fallon step into the tent. Kai, puzzled, asks why they're here, and Jean explains that this is the tent for commanding officers, with the 2 of them serving as her bodyguards. Kai is taken aback, and Fallon pulls him aside for a private word. Outside, she tells him she'll be standing guard outside the camp all night, while he's responsible for the inside. She also points out that people might realize Jean is a woman if she stays with her. Kai agrees, and Fallon informs him that Jean will be removing her armor when she's about to sleep, leaving her in light attire. So she gives him a stern warning not to get any funny ideas, and Kai assures her that he won't. Fallon then entrusts him to take care of Jean. Back inside, Kai sees Rin giving Jean a massage, which Jean is clearly enjoying, even promising to return the favor later. Watching this, Kai muses that pretending to be a man must be tough, and Jean quips that he'll only understand when he has to pretend to be a woman. Kai then brings up the dragon they encountered, admitting he hadn't expected such a mythical beast to appear in the Urza Federation. Jean speculates that they might be scouting the area after Vanessa's defeat, but she reassures him that the capital is well defended. She then casually mentions that she tosses and turns in her sleep and apologizes in advance if she kicks him during the night. Later, as they sleep, we see Kai struggling to catch even a wink of rest, with both Jean and Rin clinging to him in their sleep. The next day, the journey continues and Aslan quickly notices that Kai looks absolutely exhausted. He assumes it's because Kai's been up all night guarding Jean and Kai. Too drained to argue, just lets the misunderstanding slide. As they press on, Rin spots the imposing border wall in the distance and Aslan informs the group that they're about to cross into the Io Federation. Jean then briefs everyone saying their destination is Cassiopeia, the 8th city, which is just outside the capital and where the rebel army has set up base. As they drive towards Cassiopeia, Saki is on edge, ready to blast any celestial that crosses their path, confident that their weapons are more effective against them than other races. Kai, trying to keep things under control, tells her to chill out before she ends up shooting a human by mistake because the celestials and humans look almost identical. Jean then gives the order to stop the vehicles and they continue the journey on foot. Along the way, Rin casually picks some fruit and starts munching on it. Kai then asks if it's safe to eat and Rin assures him it is, but then admits her tongue tingles slightly. Kai quickly informs her that the fruit is poisoned, which she finds hard to believe since she's eaten them before in the Elven Forest, leaving Kai puzzled as to why these fruits from the Elven Forest would be here. Fallon steps in to clarify, explaining that the celestial invasion has merged the Elven Forest with the human city. When they finally arrive at the rebel army's headquarters, they're greeted by cheers from the humans in the area. The members of the rebel army also salute them as they enter. Zephyr, the advisors of the rebel army, warmly welcomes them, expressing how the news of Jean's victory has sparked new hope among them. He then greets Fallon, revealing they have a history together. He's surprised to see her again, remarking on how long they've survived in this desolate world. Fallon, however, insists she's not old enough to be considered long-lived. Without wasting any time, Jean requests to speak with their commander, and Zephyr promptly escorts her to him. As they make their way, Zephyr wonders how much Jean and her team know about their commander. Fallon steps in, explaining that his name is Dante, a descendant of the old royal family of the Io Federation. He calls himself the Emperor, but he's a mess, envious, suspicious, and downright obsessive. Fallon warns that he might even see Jean as a threat, and Zephyr, with a nod, confirms her assessment. He hopes Jean can keep her cool around him, but at least the soldiers appreciate her help, even if their boss is a nutjob. When they arrive, they meet the assistant commander, Kubari, who explains that anything needing to go through the Emperor will be handled by her. Rin feels something off about Kubari, but keeps it to herself for now. Finally, they come face to face with Dante, and Jean introduces herself, but Dante immediately questions why she's late, saying she was supposed to arrive that morning. Jean explains that they encountered a dragon on the way and had to stop to treat the wounded, but Dante couldn't care less about her excuses. He coldly asks why she's even here. Does she plan to hog more glory after her victory at Urza Federation and take over Io Federation too? But Jean calmly clarifies that she's here because they asked for her help. Dan then reveals that it was his subordinates who requested assistance without his consent. Jean figures that Dandy doesn't want to be ruled by the Celestials, and he grudgingly agrees. She cuts straight to the point, telling him that chasing after glory is pointless right now. If he wants honors, he needs to start acting like he deserves them, because in the end, it's the soldiers who decide who gets praised. She adds that if he steps up and leads like a true commander, the people will respect and praise him. Dante, however, is shocked, and more than a little insulted, that she would dare give him advice. The scene shifts to a strategy meeting between Jean's forces and the rebel army. Zephyr lays out the situation, explaining how the angels, fairies, dwarves, and elves are spread across the land, but admits that these areas are uncharted territory for humans. Jean quickly realizes this means they have no clue where the celestial hero is hiding, so she boldly offers to lead the search herself. She asks Dan for permission to borrow some elite soldiers, but Dan shuts her down, claiming it's foolish for a general to be on the front lines. Jean is undeterred and responds that she's willing to put her life on the line for the soldiers who are fighting for these lands, inspiring the rebel troops with her words. Later that night, we catch Rin getting Aslan to cook something unique. The dish looks so horrid that Aslan seriously doubts whether it's even safe to eat. Rin assures him she's had it before, but Aslan remains skeptical. Meanwhile, Aslan casually asks Kai if he noticed Kubari during the meeting, commenting on her beauty, and Kai is surprised to see that Rin is also curious about Kubari. The next day, Jean is out scouting the Elven Forest with the rebel army. While back at the camp, the Emperor is grumbling about how reckless Jean is for scouting herself. Kubari agrees, saying that a general should stay in the camp and command the army. Dante is paranoid about Jean's growing influence and worries that she's swaying the soldiers with her boldness. Kubari, however, reassures him that there's no need for the Emperor to worry about this, so he says that Kubari is the only true subordinate to him, and Kubari secretly smirks at how gullible Dante is. When Jean returns from her scouting mission, she immediately starts drafting a map based on her findings. Kai notices that Fallon was worried sick about Jean, and when Jean brushes it off, Fallon's anger bubbles up, and she warns Jean that a serious lecture is coming her way later. After the strategy meeting, Jean lays out the details of her scouting mission, revealing that they've managed to identify the patrol routes of the elves. She outlines the next steps, continued exploration, and the development of an invasion strategy. She asks for everyone's cooperation, and the soldiers are eager to work with her. Once the meeting wraps up, Rin impatiently asks Kai when they'll get to fight the angels and elves. Kai explains that they'll engage only after they're fully prepared, and Jean cautions that the Celestials are cunning. Rin isn't thrilled by the delay, but Kai reminds her that they'll need her strength when facing Alfreya. Rin then notices that Kuberi and Dante are conspicuously absent, and Kai speculates that they're not too keen on leading from the front lines. Meanwhile, Dante is fuming over Jean's growing success, so Kuberi hands him a piece of paper, suggesting that they need to accomplish something even more impressive to regain the upper hand. She tells Dante that achieving this will solidify his position again, and Dante laughs as he reads the plan. He then informs Zephyr that he plans to personally lead the soldiers into the elven forest, intending to capture elves and angels as prisoners of war. Zephyr is taken aback, doubting the feasibility of this plan, but Dante arrogantly reassures him, revealing that he already has a flying column deep in the forest. He declares that they're leaving immediately, but Zephyr tries to caution him, pointing out that this could mess up their coordination with the Urza rebel army. But Dante is too full of himself to care and cuts him off and orders Zephyr to keep his mouth shut and not share this intel with the Urza rebels' army. As Jean and her team return from yet another meeting, Rin pulls them aside, expressing her suspicion that Kuberi might not be human, and elsewhere, we're shown the aftermath of a crushed rebel army. Above the scene, a castle hovers ominously, and inside, Alfreya informs the dwarves and elves that the angels plan to sever ties with them. They're stunned by the news, and they curious ask about the monstrous figure lurking behind Alfreya, but he offers no explanation. Alfreya then launches an attack on the elves, but the elven Grand Elder meets his assault head-on. Despite her best efforts, her power is no match for his, and Alfreya swiftly traps her within a crystal prison. The force of his attack creates a whirlwind, sending the elven shrine maiden tumbling from the castle down into the depths of the elven forest. After some time, the shrine maiden awakens in her home. The other elves, sensing her consciousness, telepathically bombard her with questions about the elder's fate. She urges them to stay calm and instructs them to gather everyone, elves, fairies, and even dwarves. Her request leaves the other elves stunned. They can't quite grasp what shrine maiden Rewritten has in mind. One of the elves then nervously inquires about the captured humans, and Rewritten realizes this isn't the moment to handle them, but suddenly she comes up with a plan. The scene shifts to Jean and her forces in the elven forest, and Fallon reports that they haven't had any contact with Dante since the previous morning, and his current whereabouts are a mystery. Jean is baffled that Dante would venture into the perilous elven forest, knowing full well the risks involved. Kai speculates that someone might have set this in motion, pointing the finger at Kuberi. He suggests that she might be an elven spy, noting how easily elves can pass as humans by merely concealing their ears. Jean then starts to worry that there might be other traitors lurking within the Io rebel army, just like Kuberi. If that's the case, they'll need to investigate the situation themselves. Fallon then turns to Aslan and Saki, asking for a status report on their rear flank. They reassure her that everything seems normal, and she orders them to defend the rear at all costs. Jean expresses her trust in them, reminding them that they were part of the unit that faced Vanessa. Then as they press forward, Fallon spots some broken guns scattered around and deduces that they belong to the Io rebel army. She realizes they must have fallen victim to a trap magic circle hidden in the trees. Jean thinks the trap was fairly easy to avoid, but Kai points out that the real danger lies above them. They all look up and notice that the true trap is cast on the leaves of the trees overhead. Jean admits it's a clever trick, one she wouldn't have noticed if Kai had mentioned it. Kai explains that he had read about such traps in his old world, but just then Rin picks up the scent of an elf. The group follows Rin's lead, and the others ask Kai if they're really on the right track. Kai confidently assures them they are, explaining that Rin has undergone special training to sense magic. Rin leads them to a spot where the scent abruptly stops, and suddenly, they're teleported inside the elven village by a gate spell. The group is shocked to find themselves in a completely different location, and Kai quickly realizes that they had stepped on a gate spell, a technique used by Celestials for teleportation. As they gather their bearings, a great fairy appears, chasing after a butterfly. Instinctively, Kai and the others brace themselves, sensing potential danger. But then the fairy accidentally bumps into Aslan, and after falling to the ground, she initially assumes he's an elf. She questions him about which part of the forest he hails from, but quickly notices she can't sense any magic from him. When Aslan reveals that they're humans, the fairy's expression shifts to terror, and she bolts toward the elven village. Kai and the others chase after her, But as they approach the village, the elven guards spot them and prepare to open fire. Just then, Kubri appears, ordering the guards to lower their weapons. She's surprised that Kai and the others manage to activate the gate spell, and Genie immediately demands to know what has become of Dante and the others. Kuburi explains that they're still alive, but they've been incapacitated after inhaling pollen from a paralysis plant. Jean demands the immediate release of her comrades, but Kuburi, however, offers a deal. She'll release their people, but only if they agree to fight the angels on behalf of the elves. She argues that this should be a simple task for them, especially considering they managed to defeat the hero of the demons. Rin is suspicious of the elves' intentions and questions whether they plan to betray the angels. Kuburi clarifies that it was the angels who betrayed the elves first, and she leads them to Rewritten. Rewritten greets them, noting that this is the first time humans have ever set foot in the elven village, a fact they should be proud of. She introduces herself as the village's shrine maiden and inquires if they are truly the ones who defeated the hero of the demons. Jean confirms this, and then Rewritten, noticing Jean's elven garment, questions how she came to possess it. Jean explains that she took it from a group of demons near the borders of the Urza Federation, and that this happened a decade ago. Rewritten lets the matter rest because the garment wasn't directly stolen from the elves. Rewritten then proposes a contract. In exchange for the safe return of their captured comrades, she requests that they rescue their Grand Elder from Alfreya. Kai is taken aback to hear that the hero of the Celestials, Alfreya, has captured their Grand Elder. Rewritten sighs, explaining that Alfreya has changed dramatically. She recounts how he used to be warm and gentle, but recently he demanded that the elves, dwarves, and fairies bow down to the angels, a demand they simply couldn't accept. In response, Rewritten and the Grand Elder approached him on behalf of the other races, but instead of hearing them out, he captured the Grand Elder. She offers to provide some guidance for the mission, but makes it clear that the actual task of rescuing the Grand Elder will be up to Kai and his team, so Kai quickly realizes that the elves are trying to avoid direct conflict with the angels. Fallon, ever cautious, demands proof that Rewritten's story isn't a trap, and she points out that if they blindly follow her, their team could be annihilated by ambushes from both the elves and the angels. Kuburi, determined to prove their sincerity, offers her life as collateral, volunteering to accompany them to the Angel's Palace. She states that they can kill her at any point if they suspect treachery, but Fallon dismisses this offer. Fallon argues that Kuburi's life isn't worth the 6 of theirs, nor the 20 hostages they have. She demands either more lives on their side or a more valuable life to wager. Rewritten, seeing the seriousness of Fallon's request, agrees to accompany them herself. Kuburi immediately advises against this, but Rewritten insists. She calmly states that if Jean and her team feel something is amiss, they are free to take her life. Jean agrees to these terms, though Kuburi continues to caution Rewritten. However, Rewritten is resolute and explains that as the leader, it's her duty to take this risk, and if they do nothing, it would be akin to accepting the angels as their masters, so her decision is final. Rewritten adds that if the humans fail and anger Alfreya, her life will be the perfect sacrifice. She emphasizes that they must avoid triggering a civil war among the Celestials, so she orders the dwarves and fairies who have been eavesdropping to stand down and return to their posts. Once they leave, she invites the humans to sit down, promising to explain the situation in full detail. As night falls, Kai stands watch while Rin sleeps peacefully nearby. Rewritten then approaches him and she seems puzzled by human behavior, questioning why they insist on staying awake at night, especially with a fire blazing, a clear beacon to any potential threats. She assures him that she has no intention of attacking them in their sleep until the contract they've made is over, and Kai is a bit relieved hearing this. Rewritten is curious and says that she's heard that Kai and Rin took down the hero of the demons, so she pointedly asks if that same power will be enough to defeat Alfreya. Kai wonders if Rewritten wants him to kill Alfreya, and Rewritten makes it clear that they definitely will face Alfreya if they go to the Angel Palace, and if his power that defeated Vanessa isn't enough. They're all as good as dead, and Kai understands. She then warns him with a steely resolve that if he dares to run from the fight, she won't let him leave this forest alive, and he knows this. Trying to shift the conversation, Kai asks if she knows a human named Sid, but Rewritten says she never heard of him before walking away. Left alone, Kai ponders whether Alfreya might have the answers he seeks, remembering what Vanessa told him about the 4 heroes, potentially holding clues about world reincarnation. The next morning, they prepare to enter the Angel's Palace. Seki tries to contact their headquarters, hoping their messages are getting through. Kai then turns to Rewritten, asking if the Angel Palace is indeed located above the tree they're near, and Rewritten explains that there are several floating fortresses, but the one regarded as the true Angel's Palace is directly above them. She then activates a gate to transport them to the palace, and Kai immediately notices the gate's double-layer activation, a sophisticated defense mechanism. He wonders if it's designed as a countermeasure against humans, but Rewritten dismisses the idea, saying that humans are too weak to warrant such precautions. It's the other races they're concerned about. Kai isn't surprised by the Celestials' arrogance, seeing the same underestimation that the demons had shown. So he suspects that most of the Angels' forces are likely stationed at the borders, guarding against threats they consider worthy. Rewritten agrees with him, and she thinks that Kai really managed to defeat the hero of the demons. They teleport to the Angels' palace and are immediately hit by a foul stench. A mix of burning flesh and decay. Then they see smoldering angels, but Rewritten quickly assesses that these angels are still alive. She's baffled, trying to figure out who could have done this, while Kai quietly thinks this chaos might actually play in their favor. They press on, teleporting to the next floor, where Fallon remarks on their luck to have an elf guide. Without Rewritten, entering a place like this would have been nearly impossible. But their progress is cut short when they're suddenly attacked by an angel named Vicious. Rewritten is shocked to see her, recognizing that she too has turned against them. Vicious coldly declares that she's merely a servant of Alfrea, acting on his orders. Rewritten then asks if Vicious is the one who attacked the angels outside, but Vicious replies that it was Alfrea himself who did it, punishing them for their disobedience. She then reveals that the execution of the Great Elder of the Elves is imminent, intended as a brutal message to all other races that they are inferior to the angels. Then as she moves to strike, Kai swiftly counters, and Fallon, Aslan, and Saki engage her in battle. Fallon urges Jean and the others to keep moving while they hold off Vicious, and with a quick nod, they rush ahead. On the next floor, they encounter an angel knight named Raffaello. Rin steps forward to face him, telling the group to continue without her. Kai hopes that she will catch up to them after she defeats him, and they leave. Raffaello then asks if she's truly willing to sacrifice herself for the others, but Rin with a calm confidence replies that she can only give her all when no one else is around to witness it. They finally reach the last floor before Alfrea's lair, and Rewritten immediately begins disabling the barriers separating this room from Alfrea's lair. As she works, Jean turns to Kai and apologizes for not aiding him in his fight against Vanessa, but she promises to make it up to him by standing by his side in this battle. Rewritten then successfully deactivates the barriers, and they ascend to the top of the castle. Rewritten then spots the captured Elven Elder, who looks up in shock and surprise upon seeing them arrive. Alfrea then appears, and he is so angry that the damned humans have set foot in his palace. With a smug arrogance, he declares that all blessings descend from the heavens and they are bestowed upon the earth, but only angels are worthy of such divine favor. The scene shifts to Vicious launching an attack on Fallon and the others, but Fallon quickly counters and strikes back at Vicious. Vicious then realizes that Fallon's sword is forged from Drake's fang, and she remarks that she's heard the power of a Drake erupts with impact. Fallon is taken aback by Vicious's knowledge, and Vicious nonchalantly explains that the Celestials excel at creating such magical items, so it's only natural they'd know. Fallon retorts that their lord is trying to enslave the very Celestials who create these items, and she thinks he must be pretty damn arrogant. But Vicious coldly tells her that mere humans can't even begin to comprehend their lord's intentions. We then cut to Rin battling Raffaello, and Raffaello is buried under a pile of rubble, clearly stunned that Rin was able to shatter his divine guard so easily. He acknowledges that she's a real threat, but Rin knows her attacks aren't doing much damage. She can't stand how calm and collected he is, and she thinks all angels are the same, always looking down on others. She points out that this is probably why the elves, fairies, and dwarves seem inferior to them. So Raffaello, curious, asks what species she belongs to, and she coldly replies that she doesn't know, nor does she care. As long as Kai stays by her side, doesn't matter. Meanwhile, at the top of the castle, Alfrea declares that he's about to execute the Elven Grand Elder. Then Rewritten suddenly recalls the time she spent with Alfrea as a child, and she furiously tells him that he has no right to lead the Celestials. She declares she's going to kill him and charges, but he strikes her with a red blade. So Kai intervenes with Code Holder to protect Rewritten, and Alfrea shockingly questions if Kai is truly human. He asks if he's an elf masquerading as a human, to which Kai coolly replies that he's just a human. Alfrea can't wrap his mind around why a human would risk their neck for an elf, but Kai calmly explains that if something happens to Rewritten, the elves are going to hold a grudge from humans, so it only makes sense to help her. Alfrea skeptically tells him that both he and the elf would have been toast if his judgment had been even slightly off, and he's baffled that Kai would risk his life for an elf, then notices something odd about Kai's weapon. Kai proudly reveals that this sword was powerful enough to take down Vanessa, the hero of the demons, and it might even give Alfrea a seat next to her in hell. Hearing this, Alfrea is amused and can't believe the so-called foolish demon hero actually lost to a human. But Kai fires back, questioning if Alfrea is really in a position to call anyone a fool, because unlike him, Vanessa wasn't busy trying to kill her own people. Alfrea, with a superior tone, states that what he does with his subordinates is his business and declares that he is the noblest, the brightest star in existence, and he adds that he has no interest in keeping subordinates who don't obey. Jean, unimpressed, calls out his narrow-mindedness and takes a shot at him with an arrow. Though Alfreya manages to block the attack, she still scratches him, prompting him to ask if she even understands what it means to wield an elven weapon. Jean, unfazed, tells him she doesn't mind draining her life away. Kai, confused, wonders what she means, but Jean brushes it off, saying she'll explain later, because for now she's focused on taking down this arrogant angel, and Alfreya with disdain declares that they're just throwing their lives away. He then rings a bell, summoning a thunder spell aimed at Jean, but her elven garment effortlessly shields her. Alfreya is visibly shocked, and Jean calmly explains that her garment can handle any magic, even from a so-called hero. Alfreya is enraged and declares it unforgivable for a human to wear elven garments and wield celestial items, launching an even more powerful thunder attack at them. Rewritten quickly uses the third form of her magic item to shield everyone, leaving Kai impressed. She explains that she doesn't want to owe the humans anything, and Kai starts strategizing, thinking that their best shot at winning this is to turn it into a 4-against-1 fight. Rewritten quickly realizes that freeing the Grand Elder is the top priority, and she and Kai make a beeline towards the sealed Grand Elder. But before they can get too far, Alfreya hurls a spear their way. Kai steps in, deflecting the attack, and remarks that Alfreya seriously underestimates humans. Rewritten then attempts to use one of the elven treasures to break the seal on the Grand Elder, but to her shock, the treasured sword doesn't even leave a scratch. Rewritten is stunned and reflects on the battle so far. Alfreya has been using a bell that summons thunder, a spear that easily cuts through her barriers, a casket that seals away their Grand Elder, and a baton that conjures a red blade. She can't fathom how he's managing to wield all these magic items simultaneously, and even if he is a hero, it should be draining a ton of magic. She's left wondering what kind of power could possibly be fueling him, and whether this power is what caused his sudden change. But Alfreya, with a chilling calm, tells her that he hasn't changed at all. He's just thrilled to have gained a new subordinate who can replace the other Celestials. Then, without missing a beat, he summons one of the last risers, introducing her as his new subordinate. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to Rin locked in battle with Raffaello. She launches an attack, but he dodges effortlessly, so he wonders if this is all she's got, but Rin knows he's holding back. He then tries to strike her with his hammer, but this only fuels her with anger, so she channels all her power into one devastating blow to his face, shattering his helmet. Elsewhere, Fallon faces off against Vicious. She instructs Saki and Aslan to target Vicious' wings. They try, but Vicious skillfully dodges their attacks, and then Aslan throws a grenade at her, but she also dodges that shit with ease. But Fallon seizes the moment and manages to strike Vicious' wings, knowing they are the source of her magic. Vicious is taken aback, wondering how Fallon figured it out. Fallon calmly reveals that she got the tip from a man who claims to be from another world, and Vicious then concedes defeat. Then we see that Raffaello also surrenders and tells Rin to go ahead, hinting that she might be the one with the power to free the Grand Elder. Rin can't help but wonder if he threw the fight on purpose, but Raffaello stays tight-lipped, simply stating that both he and Vicious have been waiting for this moment ever since Alfreya first changed. He urges her to go now, and as she leaves, we shift back to the other floor where Vicious turns to Fallon and the others, asking them to apologize to her old friends on her behalf. She wants them to tell Rewritten and the Grand Elder that Vicious sends her apologies. Fallon, however, remains unfazed, casually mentioning that she doesn't really care. She admits that Vicious underestimated her by choosing to clash blades instead of taking the fight to the skies, and she lowers her weapons. Aslan and Seiki are puzzled and ask if she's really okay with this, and Fallon calmly explains that she has no intention of killing someone who isn't giving their all. She then tells Vicious that if she truly wants to apologize, she should take them to where Alfreya is. Back at the top of the castle, Alfreya orders the last riser to attack Kai and his friends. The riser unleashes a shockwave that sends Jean flying, but Rin manages to save her just in time. Jean then quickly retaliates, shooting an arrow at the last riser, but the attack doesn't even leave a scratch. Grateful for the save, Jean thanks Rin and mentions that she'll make sure to have her and Kai explain everything once the battle is over. Rin nods in understanding while Alfreya looks on bewildered by the sight of Rin, clearly wondering what this freaking mixed being really is. Kai and Rin immediately recognize the last riser, prompting Kai to question Alfreya if he's the one responsible for the world reincarnation. Alfreya, however, is completely clueless, leaving Kai puzzled, especially since Vanessa seemed to know about this. Kai then brings up the name of the prophet Sid, and suddenly Alfreya starts acting strangely. It's clear that something is triggering a memory, but before he can fully recall it, the last riser detects the disturbance and attacks him. She realizes that the mention of Sid has influenced Alfreya, and she attempts to erase his code from this world. She initiates the hero override, causing Alfreya to vanish into nothingness. Kai and the others are left in shock, utterly confused by what just happened. Kai recalls that something similar occurred with Vanessa when she remembered something from the past world, and as the last riser leaves, the confusion only deepens. Just when they think it might be over, a black pillar of darkness suddenly emerges before them, revealing a transformed Alfrea. His eyes now look different and his wings have darkened. Rewritten is horrified and asks what has happened to him and why he looks like this. Alfrea then flexes his newfound power, and Rin realizes that his avatar has been overwritten. Kai recalls that when the world changed, he had heard it was being overwritten. So now he understands that what happened to the world has also happened to a hero. Alfrea declares with arrogance that he's the only important being in the world, the sole existence within the heavens. In his twisted mind, this justifies his plan to incinerate everything else. He unleashes a devastating fire spell at Kai and the others, and Rin bravely blocks the attack, but her barrier shatters under the pressure. The blast severely injures Rin and also leaves the others wounded, while Rewritten is shocked that Alfrea just cast powerful magic without using any magic items. Alfrea smugly claims that this power comes from the heavens, likening himself to a shining star. But Rewritten tells him that he is wrong and tries to snap him out of it, telling him to wake up and see that his wings are crying. She explains that he's not strengthening himself, he's burning through his own life force. She reminds him that Celestials take pride in their magic items, but he's abandoned that pride and is taking pleasure in using raw magic. Rewritten shames him, calling it a disgrace to the Celestial name. Alfrea is enraged and retaliates with a beam, but Rewritten defends herself with her magic items. The beam manages to break some of her barriers, but not all, so Rewritten confidently states that no single spell can destroy all 7 of her barriers, no matter how powerful it is. Alfrea undeterredly uses his sword to smash through the remaining barriers and slashes Rewritten. She's stunned that her defenses crumbled so easily, and Kai steps in before Alfrea can finish her off. He tells Alfrea that Rewritten once looked up to him, holding onto the hope that he would return to his senses. But Alfrea coldly dismisses this, saying he has no intention of entertaining the fantasies of the weak, and Kai is disgusted by the selfishness dripping from Alfrea's words. Alfrea sneers that a mere human like Kai could never understand, but Kai fires back, stating that he understands perfectly. Alfrea is no longer the figure Rewritten once admired, nor is he the leader of the Celestials. He's just a hollow imitation, a twisted shadow of the hero he once was, so Kai decides it's time to end him. Kai squares off against Alfrea's bot, quickly realizing that every time he shatters Alfrea's sword, it regenerates instantly. So that's how Alfrea managed to break through Rewritten's shields. His sword kept getting wrecked, but it kept coming back like some twisted divine joke. Alfrea calls it the work of the gods, declaring there's no need for Celestials in this world. Kai, standing his ground, argues that heroes exist to fight for their people, but Alfrea couldn't care less, dismissing Kai as nothing more than a weakling from an insignificant race. Kai is undeterred and vows to show Alfrea the spirit of humanity, forged in the fires of their so-called weakness. Alfrea's sword is now massive and slashes down with force, but Kai deflects it time and time again. It's obvious Kai is the superior swordsman, but Alfrea has an arsenal of tricks. Then suddenly, Alfrea decides he doesn't need his sword anymore, and the girls start to panic as he begins dismantling the entire floating palace piece by piece. Rewritten is fired up and ready to end Alfrea immediately, so she asks Jean to lend her strength. Meanwhile, Kai strikes at Alfrea's shield, and against all odds, he manages to break through. But this only enrages Alfrea further, and he begins to choke the life out of Kai. Kai knows he's in a dire situation because Alfrea isn't snapping out of it like Vanessa did. But just then, Jean and Rewritten combine their powers, crafting a giant magical arrow. It's a one-shot deal, so Rewritten warns Jean not to miss. Jean releases the massive attack, its sheer power evident as it tears through and rips off half of Alfrea's body, but the girls are now completely drained of energy. Alfrea, enraged beyond reason, bellows furiously at the sky, but Kai sees his moment to strike. Using his ridiculously powerful arms, Kai flips Alfrea over completely, and with a final devastating punch, he finishes him off. Then the power surges out of Alfrea's body, leaving him defeated. He can't help but see the irony in his fate. The one who claimed to soar above all has now lost his wings and fallen to earth. Alfrea finally regains his senses, but it's too little too late. The whole place is crumbling around them. He yells for everyone to escape and tells Rewritten he no longer deserves her adoration. Alfrea then says that he will take the full blame for all that's transpired, and he asks Rewritten to relay this to the Celestials. Kai then thinks that this situation feels like deja vu from what happened with Vanessa, and Alfrea reveals that Sid had entrusted him with a cryptic message. Sid had spoken of something that was supposed to exist, though Alfrea admits he has no idea what Sid meant, but it was clear Sid was deeply frustrated. Alfrea also shares that the cause behind the world's reincarnation was anger, He then tells Kai that he acknowledges him because despite being a human, he risked his life to save an elf. Alfreya believes this act triggered the taboo code, and surprisingly, he's rooting for Kai now, so he urges him to shatter the hatred festering in the world. Those end up being Alfreya's final words as he disintegrates and vanishes into nothingness. A while later, we see that everyone who matters is safe, but the angels feel pretty useless since they didn't actually do much. Kai starts wondering when Alfreya began changing, and the angels explain it all started when Last Riser suddenly showed up. It was Alfreya's subordinate for a while, so Kai wonders why it would turn against him. Last Riser first appeared when Kai rescued Rin, almost like he was keeping an eye on her. So Kai started worrying, thinking it might come after Rin again. Rin has that same dream again, where the man helping her asks Last Riser if they were the ones behind something. She wakes up and immediately hugs Kai, who's relieved she isn't stuck in a permanent coma. Rin gets freaked out when Jean pops up out of nowhere, but Jean points out she's been there the whole time. Rin just didn't notice because all she ever thinks about is Kai. Jean sees Rin's wings and reminds her that she needs to know everything. Rin then admits that she isn't human and doesn't even know what race she is, so Kai apologizes for not telling Jean sooner. Jean mentions that non-humans are usually burned at the stake, but Kai insists Rin is different. She fought beside him against the demon hero and even saved Jean's life. Jean can't deny Rin's noble actions, and Kai promises that Rin is on humanity's side. As always, Rin says she just wants to stay by Kai's side, but admits it feels good to know Jean trusts her. Jean worries Rin's secret could cause trouble with the other soldiers, so they agree to keep it quiet. Then things take a strange turn when Jean gets curious and wants to touch Rin's wings, which tickles her. Jean can't resist and keeps tickling her more, while Kai just stands there, watching the whole thing. A while later, we find that the Elder has been freed and strikes a deal with the humans. For the next year, they will stay out of each other's territories. Jean will notify the rebels about this, making the truce official. The humans receive gifts, and Jean is stunned to see her shattered bow magically restored. Kai is equally shocked by his gift, as Rewritten reveals they are the very bullets he used to cancel magic. Rewritten then explains that she mentioned these bullets to the dwarves, who got intrigued and immediately produced a whole batch. Rewritten even helped by smelting the ore for them, suggesting Kai call them sacred elven bullets. The Elder expresses gratitude to the humans, acknowledging that without them, the Celestials would have been plunged into a brutal civil war. She assumes the humans are off to battle the other two races, meaning they'll need to pass through the celestial forests and will require a guide, so the Elder offers to provide someone to accompany them. Jeannie is taken aback by this unexpected kindness and asks why, so the Elder explains they want to discover what caused Alfreya's drastic change. 10 years ago, Alfreya confronted an intruder, but turned out to be a hero of the mythical beasts, Wrath. An angel saw them together, but something was off. Neither had any subordinates, and it seemed like they were secretly colluding. Shortly after that, Last Riser appeared by Alfreya's side, and everything began to unravel. So it's clear the Elder wants to support their mission in exchange for uncovering the truth. Rewritten then calls the Elder ruthless, realizing that whoever is chosen to guide the humans is essentially a hostage. If either side breaks the truce, that person will be the first to pay the price. She then wonders who the unlucky soul will be, only for the Elder to choose her. Rewritten is furious, but it's not for not being warned, but it's because the Elder just decided on the spot. Rewritten demands to know why she was picked, and the Elder explains it's because she hasn't strayed a single step from Kai's side. Rin, then realizing this, is instantly jealous and accuses Rewritten of trying to steal Kai from her. Kai, however, just says he'd be glad to have Rewritten with him, much to her horror as the Elder's decision is final. Back at the headquarters, Jean informs the low-ranking rebel army about the truce, and Zephin seems pleased by the news. Dante, on the other hand, has something else on his mind. Now that humanity has managed to defeat both the demons and the Celestials, they won't be underestimated anymore. This means that all the tactics they have used up until now won't work going forward. The spirits and mythical beasts will see humans as a real threat, so the rebel armies must work together more effectively than ever before. Dan then brings up the commander of the Yulan rebel army, known as the Lion King Balmon. He's an old acquaintance of Fallon, who praises him as a great commander. Dante, feeling a bit touchy, assumes this means Fallon doesn't think he's a great commander and starts to get upset. But he quickly pulls himself together and explains that their surprise tactics won't work on the other races anymore. They'll need to go head-to-head in battle, and for that they need a solid alliance with the Lion King. Fallon decides to cut straight to the point, telling Dante that if he could drop his ego, he might become a leader for all of humanity. Dante quickly passes that role over to Jean, but she has no interest in taking on such a grand role, because all Jean wants is to end the war of the 5 races. Elsewhere, a shady red fox guy is meeting with the hero of the spirits called Kyoka. Both of them are frustrated to hear about the other hero's defeats, blaming their failure on a lack of vision. They had both half-heartedly resisted Last Riser and failed to keep her in check. The fox guy reveals himself to be Wrath, and things get heated fast. Kyoka accuses Wrath of lying about something, and Wrath coldly declares that it's time for the spirit race to vanish from this world. As soon as she hears his declaration of war, Kyoka takes off, but Wrath is hot on her water ass, chasing her down and delivering a brutal kick that sends her crashing down, then tries to stomp her into the ground. But Kyoka isn't having it and transforms into a blob of water, surrounding Wrath to suffocate her. Wrath, however, ignites herself in a fiery aura, forcing the water back. If that doesn't stop Kyoka, she snatches Wrath up and drags her through the forest like a ragdoll. Then for good measure, she slams Wrath hard into the ground, leaving a crater behind, and it looks like Wrath is at a massive disadvantage. But suddenly Last Riser bursts out of Wrath's back, grabbing Kyoka by the face and attempting to execute the Zero Code. Kyoka realizes she's being jumped, but it's too late to break free from Last Riser's grasp, so she ends up exploding. Wrath, thinking she's just killed Kyoka for good, praises Last Riser for taking her down. Meanwhile, Kai and the others make their way into the forest, surprised by how wide the roads are. Rewritten explains these are paths used by the Okura Chuchupirin. No one understands, so Rewritten clarifies she's talking about enormous hedgehogs that roam the forest. They're rarely seen, but they're 10 meters wide, love collecting gold rings, and could easily crush a car if they wanted to. Hearing this, Saki and Aslan exchange worried looks. Those hedgehogs could be a huge threat, but Rewritten reassures them, saying there's only a small chance they'll be squished, and this is the quickest route to the south, so they have to take that risk. Rin, however, isn't okay with it, not because of the hedgehogs, but because Rewritten is sitting up front next to Kai. Rewritten argues it's unavoidable since she's the one giving directions, and Kai agrees. They're passing her off as a representative from the Io Foundation to avoid the chaos that would erupt if humans discovered she's actually an elf. Rewritten adds that her clothes are enchanted with illusion magic, so as long as someone doesn't already know her, she'll appear just like any other human. Just then, Jean calls on the radio for a status report from Kai, and everything seems to be in order. She asks Rewritten how long it will take to reach the Yulun Foundation, and Rewritten estimates they should arrive in 3 days if they maintain this pace. So in the meantime, there's a good spot up ahead where they can set up camp for the day. Jeannie feels relieved that things are going as planned, but Fallon suddenly notices something strange and calls her over to check it out. They find a section of the forest that looks as if it's been eaten away by something, and Fallon suspects it might be the work of a mythical beast. But that doesn't make sense. They're still in the region of the Io Foundation, which is controlled by the elves. It seems the mythical beasts have begun crossing borders and invading other territories, which makes this journey far more dangerous. Back at the battle site, Wrath is combing through the splattered remains of Kyoka, and it certainly looks like she's dead. But there aren't enough pieces of Kyoka for Wrath to be certain, so she assumes Kyoka must have escaped with her core. Frustrated that she couldn't finish the job, Wrath decides to let it go for now, knowing there will be other opportunities to kill Kyoka in the future. So she turns and walks back into the forest. Back with the group, they set up camp for the day in a clearing, and everyone takes a refreshing dip in a hot spring. After Kai finishes his turn in the spring, he's tasked with guarding Jean's tent while the girls enjoy their time. He knows he can't join them, but he's worried the girls might end up fighting with one another over there. His concerns prove valid because less than 5 minutes later, Rewritten and Rin are already arguing about whether bigger is better or flat is supreme. Jean interrupts their heated debate and asks the two to listen. She has something important to discuss. She explains she was talking with Kai about the code holder and the world reincarnation concept, and while he doesn't know many details, he's certain that the code holder wasn't made by human hands. Jeannie warns Kai that using it could be dangerous, but Kai counters that it's far more reckless for her to keep wielding elven weapons when they drain her life force. Jean acknowledges it's not ideal, but without it, she'd barely be able to contribute in fights, so she has no intention of giving up her weapon anytime soon. More importantly, they need to discuss Last Riser, which keeps appearing at critical moments. It severely wounded Alfreya and was even present when Kai fought Vanessa, but Kai has no idea what it is because there were no records of it in his timeline. And from what he's seen, Last Riser seems to be monitoring the heroes, attacking them if they hear the word Sid and start remembering things. Jean wonders what kind of relationship Last Riser has with the remaining heroes. There's no way of knowing whether it's subservient or hostile without facing the hero first, so they'll just have to keep fighting the heroes until they can put an end to the race war. Back in the present, Rewritten agrees that Last Riser is a serious threat, especially since it managed to change Alfreya and they still know nothing about it. So they decide to stay vigilant for Last Riser whenever they are in a fight with a hero. But Rin is terrified at the thought of encountering Last Riser again. She doesn't know why, but whenever she sees it, she feels so paralyzed with fear that she can't move. Jean apologizes for bringing up such a frightening topic, but suddenly, they feel a violent tremor. Something is happening in the camp. Then we see two soldiers are confronted by a mythical beast and begin shooting at it, but their bullets have no effect. Kai arrives and identifies the creature as a behemoth, and without hesitation, he charges at it and fires a special bullet, which actually manages to hurt it. Fallon soon joins him, and together they maneuver around the behemoth, dealing damage. But isn't enough to bring it down, so Fallon throws a flashbang to blind the beast and orders everyone to retreat. Kai is shocked that his modified Drake bullets didn't kill the behemoth. They were specifically designed for this purpose. This leads to a chilling realization. This version of the mythical beast is stronger than the ones from his world. As the girls return, Jean quickly orders the troops into formation to handle the threat more effectively. They need something far stronger to take it down, but they don't have any heavy artillery with them since they hadn't expected to face a mythical beast here. Fallon offers to buy some time against the beast so Jean can get the soldiers to safety, but Jean refuses to retreat and asks Kai if there's another way to defeat it. If they're going to fight both the beasts and the spirit heroes, they can't afford to be pushed back by an enemy like this. Kai agrees with her logic and explains that the beast has a magical organ on its body that's a weak spot, but the challenge is figuring out how to attack it. Jean thinks for a moment and realizes that since they're in the celestial forest, Rewritten might be able to use the terrain to their advantage. They then quickly devise a plan and begin luring the beast deeper into the forest. Once it's close enough, Fallon signals Kai, who releases paralytic mushroom spores, the same ones the elves used to capture Dan's team. The spores disorient the beast, allowing Rin to cast a massive lightning spell to stun it, and Kai leaps down and fires a point-blank shot at its head. But even after all this, the beast keeps advancing, trying to attack Rin, forcing Kai to step in and defend her. But before the beast can cause any more damage, Rewritten activates a teleportation circle beneath it, sending it away. She then smiles with satisfaction as she explains that the plan worked perfectly. The beast has fallen into a trap and is being burned to a crisp as they speak. Jeannie is pleased with their victory, but then she notices something bad happened to Kai, so her smile fades as she rushes over to check on him. Rin is standing over Kai, tears streaming down her face. He has suffered a severe wound to his shoulder from when he stepped in to protect her earlier, so she blames herself for him getting hurt. Kai then explains that the beast could still sense magic, so when Rin cast her spell, it locked onto her and tried to take her out. And there was no way he was going to stand by and let that happen, so this injury was inevitable. Rin hates seeing Kai like this. He's clearly in a lot of pain, but he's still more concerned about her well-being than his own, so he asks if she's okay. Rin assures him she isn't hurt, and Kai is relieved to hear that, even though he's far from alright. Jean and Rewritten then quickly come over and help patch him up, and they manage to get Kai back to camp for proper treatment. But while he is unconscious, he has a strange dream. In it, a mysterious voice in the forest calls out to him, urging him to wake up and come to it as the child chosen by fate, the one who touched upon the taboo code. Kai wakes up suddenly, realizing he wasn't the only one who heard the voice. Jean had the same dream. He recognizes the voice and knows the location it was calling him to is somewhere within the elven forest. With this in mind, Kai asks Rewritten to guide them there so they can investigate. Outside, Aslan and Saki were packing up, getting ready to hit the road. But then, Aslan receives a message from the group saying their plans have changed and everyone should wait until they return from their mission. So Saki, eager to make the most of this short break, decides to enjoy some extra time in the hot spring. Meanwhile, the group heads deeper into the forest with Rewritten leading the way. She has no problem taking them to the building Kai saw in his dream, but she doesn't think there's anything special about it. It's just an old stone statue, and she had visited it some time ago out of curiosity about human structures. Jean is shocked that a structure like this, all the way out here, could have been made by humans. But Rewritten confirms it wasn't created by the Celestials, and that the only other race capable of building it would be humans. Kai realizes the building must be a megalith, although none of the others recognize the term. He explains that there were several of these in his old world, though they were called graveyards. They were special buildings designed to seal away other races, but in this world, no one seems to know about them. The code holder was hidden in one of them. As they arrive at the megalith, a voice calls out inviting them to come inside. The voice reassures them there is nothing to fear, aside from the fact that it's a disembodied voice. It claims this is the center of the world, and as those chosen by fate, they are welcome. But Rewritten, who can't hear the voice, asks what's going on, and Kai is surprised that she didn't hear anything. Rin steps inside, saying the voice came from within, and Kai tells Rewritten to stand guard outside for a while as the others head in. Inside, Kai notices that the structure resembles the graveyards, and Rin senses a strong power, something akin to magic. She remarks that this power feels just like hers. They continue down the hallway and find a large room. In front of them stands a statue, and Jean wonders if this is the one Rewritten mentioned. Seeing it, she speculates it might be an ancient temple, but Kai is unsure, though something about the statue seems familiar. Suddenly, the voice returns, greeting them as the children beloved by fate, and they wonder where it's coming from. The voice reveals it's right in front of them, and they realize it's emanating from the statue. The voice reassures them not to be afraid, saying it is currently powerless. Jean, still cautious, asks who it is. The voice explains that she is a being from the world where the War of the Five Races ended, and she has been waiting for the arrival of someone who can take Sid's place in this new world. Kai is shocked that she knows Sid, but she calmly replies that she knows him better than he does. Perplexed, Kai moves closer, trying to piece it all together. Then suddenly, he notices the figure looks strikingly like the person who was with Sid in the portrait, and he realizes she is the prophetic god. She confirms it, saying humans called her Arsla Solaka, the praying god who could see the future. Jane is baffled, while Kai recalls that he had spoken earlier about Sid, the one who defeated the four heroes and ended the War of the Five Races. Sid was called a prophet because he received a divine message, and Arsla Solaka was the god who gave him that prophecy and the shining sword. Kai admits it's difficult to believe he knew a human named Sid existed, but he always thought the prophetic god was just a fairy tale. The prophetic god states that humans have worshipped her for ages, and that's why, when the war between the five races erupted, she created the code holder to protect humanity. Kai suddenly remembers the voice he heard when he pulled out the code holder and realizes it was her all along. She is pleased that he remembers and says she is happy that in a world without Sid, he is the one who received the code holder. Jean asks the god what she wants from them, and the god declares she has a prophecy for them. She explains that this is all she can offer now, as she used up all her power to create the code holder, which left her unable to prevent the world reincarnation. Kai asks what the world reincarnation actually is, and she replies that even she does not fully understand it, but she knows the world has been overwritten by a false history. And because of the world reincarnation, Sid's existence has been erased and a false reality has taken its place. Jean is in disbelief, arguing that humans have been fighting in this world for decades. She wonders if the god is implying that all of their efforts have been in vain. The god clarifies that it's quite the opposite. The world reincarnation has reversed the world's fate, but this reversal is still incomplete. So Jean puzzledly asks what the world would look like if it were fully reversed. Kai speculates that humans would have been wiped out, and the god confirms this, saying he is correct. But in this world, humans are not extinct, and that's because of her efforts. The humans here are turning the tables, and that's why their struggles are the only truth in this false world. Jean is relieved to hear this, and the god tells her that she has a mission to correct this world. She asks Jean to take Sid's place and become the new hero of humanity, but Jean bewilderedly asks why the god is choosing her. The god says she has watched over this world for a long time, witnessing how humans have been oppressed by the four races, and among them only a few have the potential to replace Sid, and Jeannie is one of them. She also notes that Kai could have been a candidate since he defeated the hero of the demons, but his strength is his only qualifying trait, and she adds that Kai was not meant to be in this world in the first place, which is why she chose Jean as the best fit. Jean asks what she is supposed to do, and the god replies that nothing has changed. She must lead her followers in battle as always. She tells Jean to defeat the heroes of the four races and the last riser, and once she does, the world will be restored. Kai asks if the god knows what the last riser actually is, but she admits she doesn't. This strange entity did not exist in the original history. Jean then asks what will happen after they defeat the heroes of the four races and the last riser. The god says it depends on how deeply the world has been affected by the reincarnation. No one can determine how much the world has been overwritten, and it is uncertain whether it will revert to its original state or remain as it is after the humans achieve victory. She then tells them they will discover the answer in due time, but for now, they should focus solely on winning the war. The god expresses high expectations for Kai and Rin as well and urges them to go forth and become the new heroes of humanity. They all begin to leave, and on the way out, Kai notices something is bothering Rin and asks her if anything is wrong. Rin says she couldn't tell if the voice was dangerous or not. In some ways, it felt comforting, but it also gave her a bad feeling. Kai reassures her, saying it should be fine because if the voice belonged to the one who created the code holder, it shouldn't be an enemy of humanity. They then exit the building, and Rewritten asks what took them so long. They apologize, and she wonders if something happened. But Jean dismisses it, saying they just found a strange stone statue. She suggests they head back, and as she and Kai move ahead, Rewritten spots a winter sage fruit tree and asks Rin to pick some fruits. She explains they're a spiritual medicine that can heal any wound. Meanwhile, Kai tells Jean not to worry too much about her new title, promising he'll stay with her until the end. He declares that they will end the war of the five races, and he'll do whatever it takes to make it happen. Jean agrees, saying the prophecy doesn't really matter. They have to do what they must. Hearing this, Kai remarks that Jean is the same in this world as she was in his old one. Jean still finds it hard to believe there could be another world besides this one. She asks him what kind of relationship they had in his world, and he replies that they were colleagues and childhood friends. So Jean wonders if he would like to be friends with her in this world as well. Kai agrees but adds that he doesn't think it will change anything between them. Jean laughs, thinking he's the only one unfazed by the idea of becoming friends with her. Just then, Rewritten and Rin join them carrying the winter sage fruits. Later, they are seen traveling by car, and Rewritten has made some kind of juice for Kai using the fruit she picked earlier. Rin doesn't want Kai to drink it because the juice smells awful, and she fears he might die from drinking something so foul. Rewritten insists he won't, taking a sip herself to prove her point, but the taste is so terrible that she immediately vomits it out. Trying to save face, Rewritten argues that the worse it tastes, the more potent its effects, and she serves some to Kai. Rin urges him again not to drink it, but he goes ahead anyway. As he does, Jean announces they're nearing the border of the Yulin Federation and warns everyone to stay alert. Saki then peers out the window, scanning for any signs of the enemy. She spots a strange triangular building, and from her description, Kai guesses it might be one of the graveyards. So they decide to stop and investigate. Jean then recalls that these are the types of buildings where the four races were once captured in Kei's world. So Kai believes this graveyard is where the spirit race was sealed, but suddenly Rin alerts them that they are surrounded. Slimy creatures begin to drop from the sky, prompting everyone to take battle positions. They open fire on the slimy spirits, but their guns have little effect. Jean then quickly orders everyone to retreat to the vehicles, though Fallon continues fighting. Kai moves to support her, pointing out that the only way to destroy spirits is by burning their bodies. But despite knowing this, they're unable to act because they lack the proper weapons. Just then, soldiers armed with incinerator guns arrive and begin burning the spirits. It becomes clear they are the resistance army from the Yulin Federation. As the remaining spirits merge into one massive entity, the resistance leader swiftly destroys it and then approaches, asking if the members of the Urza rebel army are unharmed. The leader named Balmung then asks Fallon if she is alright and comments that it's been a long time since they last met. He greets Jean as well, and she thanks him and his troops for their timely rescue. Balmung then praises them for their courage against the spirits. Fallon tries to slip away from the conversation, but Balmung stops her, saying he isn't finished talking. Fallon says that she knows his tendency to talk too much and rolls her eyes as his own soldiers chuckle at him. Just then, Rin warns them that the spirits are still lurking, and suddenly the spirits surround them with a bubble made of their own bodies. The soldiers fire at the barrier, but their weapons have no effect. Kai tries using one of his special bullets, but also fails to break through. Rewritten points out that the situation is becoming troublesome, and she mentions that they don't know how elven magic might affect the spirits, so she hesitates to use it, but this gives Kai an idea. He then tells Jean he's going to create an opening and asks her to break through with everyone in one swift move. They all get back into the cars and Kai fires through the sunroof, aiming at the spirit barrier. The shot creates a gap, and they manage to escape. It turns out Kai used bullets that the dwarves had given him, and he is amazed by their potency. Balmung is impressed and comments that Jean seems to have an excellent subordinate, but she corrects him, saying that Kai is her friend, not just a subordinate. She then suggests they begin their strategy meeting, and Balmung agrees, though he mentions wanting to make a stop first. They arrive at a lake, and Balmung explains that they originally came here to investigate this area. He notes that this is the Grand Arc Plains and that there wasn't a lake here before. Rin then informs them that this isn't a lake at all. It's actually a spirit. As they watch, the water begins to move and transform, revealing itself as Kyoka, the hero of the spirits, and with an evil look she declares that they are in her way. Kyoka then fires a high-pressure blast of water at Kai, forcing him to leap out of the way, narrowly avoiding being obliterated in one hit. Then without hesitation, Kyoka morphs the water into a massive wrecking ball, smashing one of the vehicles. Seeing no other option, Kai goes on the offensive, using his sword to slice Kyoka clean in half. And to ensure she stays down, he orders Balmung's soldiers to unleash all their firepower, and they immediately torch Kyoka's upper body. However, Kyoka barely flinches, and instead of struggling, she absorbs the fire and swiftly reforms her body. Calmly, she takes a deep breath, prompting Kai to realize she's about to do something huge, so he shouts for everyone to get back. And then Kyoka unleashes a colossal wall of flames. Kai quickly pulls out the code holder to block the attack, saving everyone. Oddly enough, Kyoka seems to recognize the code holder despite this being her first encounter with Kai. It's also strange since spirits aren't supposed to speak. But as soon as Kyoka starts recalling memories, it triggers Last Riser's sensors. Now aware that Kyoka has made contact with the code holder, Last Riser is about to take action. Back on the battlefield, Kai is certain he heard someone speak, but spirits can't talk, or so he thought, so he confusedly tries to make sense of it when Kyoka interrupts, demanding to know why he possesses the code holder, an artifact meant for a specific human. But Kai, still grappling with the shock of hearing his spirit talk, even if she is the hero of spirits, presses her for information. So he asks if she's referring to Sid. Kyoka wasn't entirely sure at first, but once Kai mentions Sid's name, her memories flood back. She then recalls with perfect clarity how much she despises Sid, viewing him as the ultimate enemy of all spirits. Yet at the same time, she admits that Sid made her wiser than she was before. Kyoka had learned to speak the human language just so she could understand Sid's words while he was locking her away. Something about reincarnation being only the start of a much bigger catastrophe. Kai still had a ton of questions for her, but before he can ask, he notices Last Riser's portal open right behind her. As if on cue, Last Riser appears, grabs Kyoka's head, and prepares to execute the Zero Code, planning to erase Kyoka from existence, just for mentioning Sid's name. But Kyoka isn't new to dealing with Last Riser, so she effortlessly breaks free from its grip and strikes back. Realizing it can't pull off its usual sneak attack, Last Riser gives up and retreats. Once it's gone, Kyoka reforms her body and lands back on the ground. She would keep fighting the humans, but she's had enough for today, so she casually tells them that she's done. But Balmung doesn't buy it though, and he's immediately suspicious, accusing her of trying to trick them. But Kyoka then calls him an idiot and says she's offering a ceasefire. Balmung shouts that she's the one who started the fight, but Kyoka just shrugs, claiming it was a misunderstanding. She thought they were ambushing her while she was regenerating. But Kai puzzledly wonders what Kyoka was recovering from in the first place, so Kyoka explains that earlier, she'd been battling Wrath, and that fight had been brutal. But she admits Wrath wasn't nearly as much of a problem as Last Riser. She recalls Sid once referring to the monster as Last Riser and points out that while most heroes fight for the good of their own race, Last Riser doesn't belong to any race at all. That's what makes it so dangerous. She describes it as pure hatred incarnate, an enemy to every living thing, and insists that they must find a way to stop it. Balmung is skeptical of Kyoka's words, still seeing the spirits as enemies after years of battle. However, Jean steps in, assuring him that Kyoka is telling the truth. She points out that Last Riser is a far greater threat, having attacked not just humans but demons and celestials alike, so she argues that a ceasefire would benefit all races. Balmung is reluctant. After so long fighting the spirits, he finds it difficult to imagine coexisting with them. But Jean reminds him that she has already brokered ceasefire agreements with both the demons and celestials. Though she doesn't intend to forgive them for their oppression of humanity, these non-aggression pacts are crucial to avoiding further losses. So in her view, accepting Kyoka's offer is the smart move. Eventually, Balmung concedes and agrees to the truce with the spirits, and with no further reason to stay, Kyoka announces that she's leaving. But before she departs, Kai asks where she's headed. So Kyoka gestures toward the Black Pyramid in the distance, explaining that she remembers the graveyard, the place where she first encountered Last Riser. After Sid disappeared, Last Riser appeared, sparking mixed reactions from the heroes. Vanessa despised it, Alfreya was disgusted, and Kyoka herself was cautious, though indifferent at the time. The only one who embraced Last Riser was Wrath, and they've been working together ever since. Curious Kai asks if Wrath's alliance with Last Riser is to gain power, but Kyoka shakes her head, confident that Wrath, too proud to rely on others' strength, has a goal beyond simply winning the race war. By now, Jean and the others are ready to investigate the graveyard. Kyoka requests Kei's guidance, knowing he's familiar with these types of structures. He leads them to the entrance, which is identical to the demon graveyard he previously explored in the Urza Federation. And then together they make their way to the chamber, where Kai once found the code holder. Kai approaches the pedestal at the center of the room, and as soon as he begins inspecting it, the code holder starts to react and a recorded message from Sid plays. In the message, Sid apologizes for his failure. He couldn't protect Rin, so he leaves a final request for whoever holds the code holder now to reach the place he could not. As the message ends, the code holder projects a bright light onto the wall, and in moments, a portal opens, pulling Kai and the rest of the group through. They suddenly find themselves on the mysterious platform where Kai once found Rin. Both Balmung and Fallon are uneasy, sensing this might be a trap, so they ask Kai what's going on, but he has no answers. Though he has been here before, he never had the chance to uncover the truth behind this place. With no immediate answers, standing still won't help, so Kyoka takes the lead, sensing a powerful energy source in the distance. The group follows Kyoka, eventually arriving at another platform, where they come across something unexpected, a statue of Alfreya. Upon closer inspection, Rewritten senses magic emanating from the statue. She realizes it's not just a statue, it's the real Alfreya trapped under a petrification spell. Rewritten believes she can break the spell if given enough time to study it. However, Balmung, still harboring doubts about the ceasefire, sees this as an opportunity to destroy the celestial hero while she's vulnerable. But Rewritten quickly steps in, preventing Balmung from acting, and while they argue, Kyoka examines Alfreya herself. She determines that this isn't just ordinary petrification. The stone-like appearance is only superficial. It seems more like Alfreya has been frozen in place, likely due to the Zero Code's effects. The presence of Alfreya's sealed body raises even more concerns, but things take a dangerous turn when Last Riser reappears. Last Riser, then detecting intruders, announces a defense protocol to secure Alfreya's sealed body. Last Riser then scans the group and quickly identifies 3 individuals who are positive for the taboo word, STID. To Last Riser, they are a priority for destruction, while the others are deemed irrelevant, so without hesitation it teleports those deemed insignificant away. Rin panics worried about the others, but Kai reassures her, reasoning that since Last Riser excluded them from the destruction protocol, it likely just sent them back to the graveyard. From what Last Riser said, Kai realizes is targeting anyone with memories of Sid, seeing their existence as a threat to its plan. Knowing this, there's no other option but to fight. Meanwhile, Jean and the others have been teleported to some fields outside the graveyard, so the determined Jean immediately starts heading back, intent on re-entering the portal to help Kai. But Balmung questions her resolve, doubting whether she can stand a chance against such a formidable creature. Jean admits she's unsure if she can make a difference, but reveals she has a last resort, one that could turn the tide. Rewritten realizes Jean plans to tap into the full power of her elven gear, and warns her that doing so would dramatically shorten her lifespan. However, the portal has already closed, so there's no way for Jean to return to that dimension right now. So Jean frustratedly asks what she should do then. Rewritten suggests they need a solid plan before rushing in again, and Balmung agrees, adding that they should prepare thoroughly before facing Last Riser again. Rewritten has an idea she'd like to try, but she'll need help to make it work. Back in the battle, Kai, Rewritten, and Kyoka continue their desperate fight against Last Riser. Kyoka launches a powerful water blast at it, but Last Riser effortlessly erases the water using the Zero Code. Seizing the distraction, Kai attempts an attack but barely manages to scratch it. While Kai keeps Last Riser occupied, Kyoka moves over to Rin, questioning why she is enjoying the fight. Rin admits she wants to help but is paralyzed by fear. Last Riser terrifies her to the point where she can't even move. Kyoka, realizing there's no time to convince her, decides to use Rin's magic instead, so she absorbs some of Rin's energy through her hand, fortifying her own abilities. And once Kai creates a brief separation from Last Riser, Kyoka takes the chance, and she encases Last Riser in ice, then shatters it into pieces. Kai is astonished by Kyoka's raw power. Her ice attack had seemed deadly enough to finish off Last Riser for good. However, to everyone's shock, Last Riser emerges from a portal fully restored. Kai finds it bizarre that Last Riser could recover so easily from a seemingly fatal blow, especially when it had retreated so quickly during the earlier fight with Kyoka and Vanessa. This leads the group to suspect that Last Riser's ability to regenerate is tied to being within this dimension. Kyoka, now realizing they need to escape, asks Kai if there's a way out. He explains that the last time he escaped, he used the code holder to slash a hole through the dimension. Though Kyoka isn't thrilled about relying on the code holder, it seems like their only option. Then before leaving, Kyoka grabs Alfreya, causing Last Riser to panic, so it's clear that Alfreya is a high priority target. So Kyoka devises a plan to use Alfreya as bait to lure Last Riser out of the dimension. The group begins their escape, with Kyoka throwing fire at Last Riser to slow it down. However, Last Riser merely reflects the fire back at them. But Kai steps in, using the code holder to block the attack, and in the process, he unintentionally tears open a hole in the dimension. And without hesitation, they all jump through, with Last Riser frantically chasing after them. Then once they are back in the real world, Kai uses the code holder to weaken Last Riser. So Kyoka seizes the opportunity and blasts Last Riser with a powerful lightning spell, reducing it to nothing more than a pile of ashes. Meanwhile, back at the makeshift forge, Rewritten is working furiously. She's crafting upgraded weapons, knowing that the human bullets are useless against Last Riser. Suddenly, a loud boom echoes from the graveyard, leaving everyone wondering what's happening. Just when Kai and Kyoka think it's over, they witness something horrifying. A tendril stretches out from the portal, and all the way across the plains, Rewritten freezes, sensing an overwhelming surge of magical energy. It's Last Riser, but a more powerful version. This is the form that had imprisoned Rin in the dimension before Kai rescued her. It's far stronger than before, and it declares its intention to erase them from existence. Kai then wonders if Rin is alright seeing it, and Rin's mind flashes back to Sid fighting to protect her before she was captured. We see Sid confronting the Last Riser, demanding to know if it's responsible for the chaos. During the fight, the Last Riser manages to wound Sid, which leads to Rin's capture. Rin, still haunted by the memory, tells Kai that she doesn't want to be alone anymore, and Kai swears he won't let that happen. He's staying by her side, no matter what. Later, we see the same goddess from before apologizing to Sid. She admits that she would have preferred to meet Kai under different circumstances. Meanwhile, Kai is locked in battle with the Last Riser, and Kyoka joins in, assisting with her magic. However, the Last Riser blocks their attacks and attempts to capture Kyoka, encasing her in a strange barrier. But before she's fully trapped, Kyoka uses one of her skills to teleport Kai, Rin, and the statue of Alfreya to safety, while she herself becomes sealed inside the barrier. Then the trapped Last Riser tries to erase Kyoka's code from existence, but inside the barrier, Kyoka realizes the danger she's in, unleashing all her magic and casting a powerful spell called Universal Light Mirroring, resulting in a massive explosion. Outside the graveyard, Jean and Bauman feel the shockwaves from the blast, and moments later, Alfreya's statue flies out of the graveyard and lands before them. Jean, then recognizing the urgency of the situation, orders Bauman to take command while she rushes into the graveyard. Meanwhile, we see Rin tending to Kai, who soon wakes up. It's revealed that Rin had protected them by casting a powerful barrier. Then Kai, who is still a bit dazed, wonders if all of this was Kyoka's doing, and Rin assumes she might be right. Jean, then noticing the two are safe, breathes a sigh of relief and tries to approach them. But Kai and Rin then realize something terrifying. The Last Riser is still alive, even though it's been ripped to pieces. The Last Riser quickly regenerates, forcing Kai and Rin to attempt an escape from the graveyard. However, the Last Riser suddenly flies out, capturing Rin. It detects a significant disturbance from the taboo word within her, recognizing that its influence on the new world has reached a dangerous level. But before the creature can act, Rin unleashes a powerful lightning spell, freeing herself from its grasp. The Last Riser tries to attack her again, but Kai steps in, refusing to let the damn thing lay a finger on her. He strikes it with his sword, but the Last Riser's barrier deflects the attack. Bauman joins the fray, attacking the creature, followed by Fallon, but even with the three of them working together, they can't seem to break through the barrier. In desperation, Bauman hurls a grenade at it, and Fallon slashes with her sword. The soldiers open fire as well, but nothing seems to be enough to put the Last Riser down for good. We then see Jean preparing to fire the spiritual flame arrow, a weapon that Rewritten had been crafting. Rewritten warns Jean to make the shot count, as it's the only arrow she managed to create. She explains that the arrow has absorbed so much heat and magic that it will burn for eternity. Jean takes aim and releases the arrow, striking the Last Riser right in the head. The arrow absorbs the surrounding heat, triggering a massive explosion. After the dust settles, the Last Riser crashes to the ground, its head separated from its body. Despite this, Bauman cautions everyone not to let their guard down. They have no idea what else this thing might pull. To their horror, the decapitated Last Riser begins muttering gibberish as if reciting a spell. Suddenly, a black hole, eerily similar to the one that originally brought Kai into this world, appears. Everyone moves to surround the Last Riser, but it starts a second-level shift in world reincarnation, initiating an override of the strongest hero. From within the black hole, a sword resembling the coat holder emerges. Then the Last Riser morphs into Sid and wields the sword, and that shit leaves Kai stunned. Elsewhere, we see Wrath fuming, acknowledging that Sid's mistake has thrown their fate off course. But she refuses to surrender, vowing to ensure the mythical beasts are saved, even if the entire world crumbles into ruin. Meanwhile, the Last Riser begins running its side program, and Kai clashes swords with it. He furiously calls out the Last Riser for being nothing more than a copycat, stealing Sid's appearance and dishonoring his name. Rin then joins the fight, hurling lightning magic at the creature, warning it not to mock Sid. But in a sudden move, the Last Riser uses a dimensional gate to teleport Rin away. Kai then desperately demands her return as he presses the attack, but the Last Riser easily fends him off, driving its sword into the ground. At this moment, Kai recalls a memory from his previous world. After a long day of training, Jean once asked him why he pushed himself so hard, and he replied that it was simply his duty. Jean, then curious, asked him if he intended to become the next Sid for humanity, but Kai says it wasn't about that. Back in the present, Kai declares to the Last Riser that he is not Sid, and with the full power of the code holder, he strikes, creating a dimensional gate in the process. But despite this heavy blow, the Last Riser rises again. Meanwhile, Rin finds herself imprisoned once more in the very spot where Kai had first found her. Lost in her thoughts, she remembers how every race had scorned her, rejecting her as an abomination. She admits that she hated everyone for it, but now things are different. Rin reflects that maybe she's starting to like people a bit more, and it's all because Kai is with her. So that's why she can keep fighting. Summoning all her strength, she shatters the chains holding her captive and leaps through the dimensional gate that Kai had opened. Meanwhile, the Last Riser attempts to close the dimensional gate, but Rin bursts out just before it seals shut. Kai is relieved and asks if she's alright, so she reassures him, saying she's fine and that she's ready to fight by his side. Kai then points out that the Last Riser only copied Sid's powers, not his spirit, and shoots the fake code holder, shattering it into pieces. With confidence, Kai declares that he's the one who truly inherited Sid's will. He then charges at the Last Riser with his sword, but the creature blocks the attack and swiftly disarms Kai. The Last Riser counters, launching an assault on Kai, but he skillfully dodges every strike. In response, Kai attacks using his martial arts skills, landing a solid hit. Just then, Rin throws his sword back to him and Kai catches it, using it to parry the Last Riser's next blow. His sword then begins to glow, radiating like a rainbow, so the Last Riser snarls, claiming that fate cannot be altered, that world reincarnation will continue no matter what. But But Kai, deflecting its tentacles, replies with defiance that he doesn't believe in fate and its resolve that changes the world. With a fierce strike, Kai slices the last riser in half. But as he catches his breath, he notices the black hole above hasn't vanished. Rin then summons her strength and uses her power to seal the black hole. But in the process, Kai is knocked unconscious. In his dream, Kai is transported back to the first time he visited a graveyard. He remembers the fear that gripped him as he felt like he was falling into it, surrounded by monsters. After making his way through them, he laid eyes on the code holder for the first time. Upon touching it, he saw the captured Rin, who begged him to help her. Kai then wakes up in a hospital bed, immediately noticing Rin by his side. She rushes to hug him, relief flooding her face as she tells him how scared she was that he might never wake up. Kai apologizes for making her worry, and then Rin hesitates for a moment before asking if he understands how she feels about him. She explains that at first, just being by his side made her happy, and she tolerated humans only because of him. But as they fought together, it was his presence that kept her going. Now though it's not enough for her just to be with him, she wants him to like her too. She asks him what he thinks of her and leans in, trying to kiss him. But before she can, Rewritten and Jean burst into the room, interrupting the moment. They shove Rin aside, scolding her for trying something like that, but Rin frustratedly wonders why they had to barge in at that exact moment. Jean then checks on Kai, asking if he's alright since he had been unconscious for 3 days. Rewritten explains that after he defeated the last riser, he suddenly collapsed. Jean tells him that she immediately brought him to the Yulin Rebel Army's hospital, adding that Rin woke up within a few hours, but Kai remained out cold. Despite everything, Jean is relieved to see him awake, and Rewritten agrees. Rewritten then turns to Rin, accusing her of taking advantage of Kai the moment he opened his eyes, and Jean backs her up. But Rin unfazedly fires back that it's perfectly fair after all. Jean had held Kai's hand the entire night, and Rewritten didn't leave his side either. But Rewritten flusteredly clarified that she was only administering treatment, not anything inappropriate. Witnessing all that, Kai is left wondering what the hell they're all talking about. The next day, we see Kai and the others back at the graveyard and notice that Kyoka is also alive, though she's been reduced to a miniature form. They're surprised to see her in any state of wellness, but she quickly snaps that she's not fine at all. She explains that her current form is because she split her core to escape, and unless she absorbs a huge amount of spirits or magic energy, it'll take her a good 30 years to fully recover. Balmung hopes she'll stick to the truce with the humans in the meantime, to which Kyoka nonchalantly replies that he can just smash her if he ever thinks she's going to betray them. Rewritten steps in, warning both humans and spirits not to destroy the statue of Alfreya, emphasizing that doing so would bring down the wrath of the Celestials. Balmung agrees and announces he'll make this area off-limits to all races. Kyoka concurs, adding that their top priority right now should be learning more about the last risers and dealing with them. Jean chimes in, saying that their best lead is the remaining hero Wrath, and Kai agrees with her. Meanwhile, the goddess discovers that the shift to the second level of world reincarnation has failed. She isn't surprised, thinking it was inevitable since only one last riser's power was used to try and make it happen. We then see her statue beginning to crack, and she senses that Rin is starting to awaken, driven by none other than Kai. Later, we see Jean and the others preparing to leave the region. Rin asks Kai if he thinks the statue of the celestial hero is the same as the goddess's statue. Kai speculates that it could be, while the goddess wonders if Kai and Rin will be able to defy fate as the world reincarnation is still in motion. Kai then tells Rin that Sid entrusted him with the mission to protect her and the War of the Five Races, and he vows to see it through. This was the final episode. Subscribe for more anime recaps.